I just wanted to share. Daniel Wu is he's been failing like a champion over here. This is my talk with the great Daniel Wu. He's a dear friend of mine, and he's also part of my COVID bubble. A lot of you guys know him as the movie star guy, maybe his love of cars or whatever you know him as. I just know him as Daniel. And so we were just sitting around talking. He popped by, so I was like, hey, let's turn on the microphones and let's have a conversation. This one came right around the time that I was being asked to do a situational awareness course or a self-defense program for the Asian community. It was a mutual friend of ours asked me to do this. And then right at that same time, Daniel was also wondering what he was going to do. So he wrote this really great article on Bruce Lee. It was a letter to Bruce Lee. And I'll put links up to that. It was for ESPN. And so we start off talking just about him writing that letter and kind of what it was about. Thank you for tuning in. This is Total BS Wellness. And remember, if you're not showing up and you're not practicing and engaging thoughts, words, and actions, everything you're doing is BS. Straight up, you're wasting your time. Let's do this. This is Daniel Wu and Matt Lucas. Yeah, don't get me started on all my... I have a lot of shoes and I never wear shoes because when I used to wear...
But you don't have a lot of shoes. That's what I'm saying. It's like you have 6 pairs of shoes there. I have like 50 pairs of shoes sitting under.
You get shoes for free and shit, though.
That's true too. But I also buy a lot of shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's stupid.
I mean, I actually have shoes there that you've given me.
You know,
for free.
yeah. There's I think 1 pair of shoes I give you. What it is with shoes is that I just like design, right?
Right.
So I like good design, and shoes are a really good way to get into design, right? Because they design them so quickly. I just buy them. And so,
Yeah. What?
Anyway, let's go back to what we're.
Huh?
let's go back to what we were talking about.
Yeah. Sorry. I keep just making sure that everything's going on, and because we always have one foot in the cave and one foot in modern, and I don't think we notice that status, attention, resource is such a nature of tribalism, and that'll keep us from like truly evolving. You know, because like everything we're doing is for status, attention, and resource.
Right.
When we're in that,
Right.
and then hopefully we can get human and know that we can get more creative around that, and it's supposed to cultivate ourselves deeper.
Yes. Yeah.
But oftentimes we just get trapped in that loop.
Yes.
And then we link up in our...
Yeah, I think you just have to be aware that that is a loop, that exists, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But to be aware that not to be, like you're saying, caught in that loop, and to be able to step in and step out when you want to. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's like have a cool car, or whether it's like drag the biggest animal home.
Yeah.
Like we're always, it's like I was talking to someone the other day and how they're saying men are really suffering right now because they're stuck at home.
Yeah, they can't do the things that they're the man things they're supposed to go out and do stuff and come back. Right.
Yeah.
Bring it home.
What have you been doing?
Well, not much actually. Well, I moved houses. I moved from one house to another. That was a bitch.
Yeah.
What else did I do? I wrote that article, which I hadn't done in a long time. I hadn't written in a long time. I used to write all the time.
Why was that article so important to you? Other than the racial thing, all that stuff.
I think I needed to process something.
Okay.
Like I saw all this stuff and I knew I was feeling this way, and I just wanted to get it out somehow. And how I was feeling. So I needed to process it. I needed to meditate on it, and then I needed to express how I felt about it. You know, but in a way that was, not like pedantic, and not in a way that was like, oh, we must do this, we must do that, or blah blah blah. That, not in that way. In a way that was, entertaining and cool piece of writing as well, but also, have some substance to it. Because I never like overt teaching. You know what I mean? Like, or overt whining or whatever. I wanted to be a little more artful. But yeah, I think I needed to do it because it was bothering me so much, and I just didn't have, and also because we can't be around each other. There's nobody to like go meet and talk about it, and vent the frustration. So I was like, okay, I'll write something, and or getting the opportunity to write something was a great way to just get that process through me, get it all through me, and go, what are you really thinking about this? Like what do you think can be done? You know what I mean?
I like what you're saying about like people were doubting the fact, you know, Bruce Lee could even be valid in film, and then, you know, he comes in, next thing you know, his
yeah. So that was, it was interesting because like there's a lot of parallels that I have with Bruce, and like in the article I say like when I was younger I was you know, fantasizing that I was his reincarnation, because like our paths are very similar. We're both born in the Bay Area, both in San Francisco, right? He went back to Hong Kong. He grew up there. I grew up here, but then he came here in his 20s. I went there in my 20s, right? And then he started something, and then we kind of did the opposite. Yeah. So I came back here, he went back over there and blew up, right? Yeah. Similar kind of paths. Obviously, he's a totally different level. I mean, like he martial arts, everything, all this philosophy that he tied together, Jeet Kune Do, he just went like really far with it. But you know, he was inspiring to me because it was like he's the only Chinese American that I know, or Chinese I know, that ever made it to the big screen in that time, right? At that time in the 60s, 70s, like that was a hard feat to achieve, right? But then, you know, all the difficulties he had in trying to achieve that. You know, he was a very determined person, you know, like talking about achievers, he was like determined. He was not going to be stopped, right?
Do you think it was because of well, of course it's all, I mean, he was a competitor. Like he was pushing.
He was an A-type relentless personality, you know what I mean? So you could see it in the way he practiced the martial arts, right? So he was going to do that in his profession, and he was going to do that in everything else, right? And so like when he had stumbled across those roadblocks in Hollywood, then he's like, okay, fuck it, I'm going to Hong Kong, right? I'm going to become a star there. And he did. He became a huge star there. And then that generated enough interest for Warner Brothers to come back to him and go, hey, let's do Enter the Dragon, you know? And so then he finally got what he wanted. But, you know, the sad thing, the tragic thing was he died 10 days before that movie premiered, you know? And that movie like literally changed the action movie world, right? Because I'm not sure if anybody had seen the previous Hong Kong movies in the U.S., like Big Boss, Fist of Fury, those ones, until after Enter the Dragon hit here, and then they came over, right? Yeah. So Enter the Dragon was the big movie that Westerners got the first taste of Bruce from, right? And then he blew up on the screen, but he was already dead, you know. So it's kind of shitty that, you know, that's what he was trying to go for, this global success, and then he got it, but he was dead already.
His attitude. So I call Bruce Lee, and I don't think people really understand this because I don't know if people. I'm always, we're talking about tribal, so a lot of times if martial artists and act, you've seen it a million times. Sure. Like you're in a film, you're in a film, you're in a books, you're in a books. Right. But I'm kind of vast. But I'm always saying like Bruce Lee technically is the Marilyn Monroe of China, meaning like it was at this weird time because if you talk to like the Wong Jack Man School and you talk to the old guys in Chinatown, like Bruce Lee was not liked.
He was considered arrogant. He was a kid when he I mean, he was like 21, 22 when he was challenging all those old school kung fu teachers, right? And so, like if I was an established kung fu teacher, I'd be like, who's this fucking kid coming here like talking all this shit and saying like, you know, screw you, and forms are stupid and blah, blah, blah. Like, of course, you would think he's arrogant, and he probably, and he is. I mean, he definitely was. You have to be strong in that way, but it's in the same way like Ali, Muhammad Ali. Yes, he definitely rubbed people in the wrong way, but he had a vision. He had a vision that a singular vision that he wanted to achieve, and same thing with Bruce, I think. And I'm not that kind of personality, but if you're that kind of personality, you're gonna rub people the wrong way, and it's fine. I think it's fine. I don't think you can make everybody happy. Right. You know,
Daniel Wu is classy.
No, but I can't do that to people. I'm not like.
Don't deny your classiness. Don't even.
I can be arrogant in some ways, but I'm not arrogant enough to like, you know, think I'm hot shit all the time.
And,
you know?
the reason why I call him because I remember like when I was younger, I saw this thing on Marilyn Monroe, and I was like, fuck her. You know, I just didn't like her. Right. And then when I got older, I was like, oh, she was that way because there was like no one was taking her seriously. She was gonna make it, and so she had, you create this shell and you push right really hard. And then I saw that with Bruce Lee, saw that with Muhammad Ali, because
they believed in themselves. They believed so.
And no one else was letting them.
Exactly. And no one else would, and then they would just push through and push through and push through. And that was I mean, that's what makes them all iconic. You know. I would say Marilyn Monroe slightly more tragic because she got pushed
Right.
into,
Yeah.
basically mental breakdown.
Yeah.
But
Well, that'll break you.
Ali, very successful. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it did break her.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that it did eventually break her. Ali was successful in finding himself and becoming independent, and then rising above what he had set out to do in the
Yeah.
beginning, which is just boxing. He became way more bigger than
he's so
boxing
smart.
after that.
He's so smart.
A humanitarian, a philanthropist, all that kind of stuff. He rolled it into much more important things, I think.
Well, you developed a because it's like it's different back then because I mean it's civil rights back then was even like there because Marilyn Monroe there was the huge equality gap for men and women, and then Bruce Lee lost all the things, and it's hard to watch people when you're that capable and you're watching just some dude that can't even throw a punch take your job,
pushing him down, right.
And then you had Ali, but then how do they stay grounded? But it's like when you were out, you go away and you kind of become this star. There's a you and I have talked about this a million times. There's a sickness to that drive, and like how do you like I kind of know how you break that sickness a lot of times, but like it's all what you do when no one's watching.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of what are some of the things you do to kind of like keep that, because you're weirdly grounded.
Well, the biggest change for me was like having a kid, like having a family, because then it made everything about something else besides me, right? Yeah. And I remember prior to having a kid, I was 36 when I had my kid, and so prior to that, I was coming to a point in my life where I was having a year or two of this thought of going, what is this shit all about? Like, I'm working like crazy, I'm making tons of money, blah, 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 but it's like, it's just servicing me, and I'm bored of it. Yeah. I'm like bored of myself. I don't want to talk about myself, like, because you have to do interviews all the time. All they want to talk about is you, and I'm just like, I'm tired of it. I don't want to be. It's about me. Yeah. But as soon as I had my kid, it wasn't about me anymore.
You're talking about you for your kid.
And then all the work became easier because then it wasn't really. I mean, it was about me, but it was like in the back of my mind, I'm doing all this for my kid, right?
Yeah.
And then it became less of a chore, but also it grounded me in a way. It was like, okay, yeah, I might be a big movie star or whatever in Asia, blah, 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 but I'm still a father when I come home, right? And I have to be a father. I can't be a movie star father to her, right? And so that really, really, really grounded me. And then that made me change my whole perspective in terms of work. Like I would work back to back to back to back on projects, right? Movie to movie. So sometimes, in the highest periods, like 6-7 movies a year, at the minimum 3 or 4, right? And so once I had my kid, I was like, okay, at the most 1 to 2 projects a year, 1 project in Asia, 1 project here, and that's enough. I don't need to be greedy, and then the rest of the time I'm gonna spend with my family because when I go away to film, I'm gone, and I miss time with my family, so I got to make up for it. So then I have to find that balance. So I think that whole situation made me much more grounded and made me realize, okay, I don't want all that stuff. Like I don't want to be the mega superstar, all that kind of stuff. But I want to be a good family man, right? And it's hard to do both. It's really hard to do both. Like really, I mean, not that Tom Cruise and all those people don't do it, but look, Tom Cruise doesn't have a family now. Like a lot of those people don't have a family. The Rock does it. He has a kid and all that stuff. But it's very, very difficult to maintain a healthy family life and then become a huge superstar.
You sort of have to have like that, $20 million payday kind of thing, and then just sort of.
And then you have people to do stuff for you, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, well, for me, it was like I enjoyed a peak, from my mid-20s to my mid-30s. It was crazy in Asia. It was a really great time for my career. It was really great for my ego, all that kind of stuff. But then after all that, it was like, okay, what's next? And I just kind of rolled into the family life, and that became the next thing. And then that's what I really focus on now, because I guess for the first 10-15 years of my career, I'm building up something. Then you get to a point where you're there, and then it's like, okay, now I don't have to work so hard anymore. And secondly, I mean, I still work hard on the projects, but I don't have to work so hard on building a reputation and all that kind of stuff, right? And so then I can focus more time on family and all that.
We always talk about that. It's like I'm always like, I'm a single dude in my 40s living alone in a warehouse.
Right.
Shit can get real weird.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
So
yeah, for me, like all that weirdness is gone now. I mean, it's not totally gone. And sometimes I lament that I don't have those late nights of creative craziness that I used to have anymore. I used to have and that I'd get an idea and I work on it until like 5 in the morning or something like that. I can't really do it in that way anymore. But but the time I do have now is much more focused and much more quality, you know. There's a lot less like rambling, you know, hours and hours of bullshit to try to find something, you know.
Yeah, because I'm at my best when I'm serving somebody, and since I don't have children and I don't really plan to have children.
Oh yeah, well, who's this? Who's that?
This is, I told you, my homeless neighbor.
Oh, the homeless neighbor.
Yeah,
he plays bass.
Dude, he's pretty good at the bass. So we're gonna have like a weird soundtrack when we're doing this.
That's cool. I'm good.
Yeah, let me turn on these mics here. So we can get some birds. And no, he's actually getting pretty good. Yeah, but it's like I had to find people. I had to find students. I had to find people that I cared about.
Well, you created a family.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have a wife and kids, but you created a family here that was met with your students and this kind of community that you built here. And so you had that situation also, kind of.
But I will admit, on my birthday, I just wanted time alone, and shelter in place happened on my birthday.
That's good.
I just wanted a little bit of time alone.
That's good.
Yeah. How is the shelter in place going?
You know, for me, it's not very different than what it's normally like to be in between jobs. You know what I mean? Except for the fact that you can't go to a restaurant or go to stores or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not been difficult for me, not at all. Like, there's a lot more people out there that are just like dying, you know. But this is normally what my life is like in between, you know, a project.
You built a truck.
Yeah. So well, I'm working on it right now. And the rooftop tent is coming soon.
Where do you want to camp first?
I think we're going on a trip. We're going to go see the in-laws in Vegas. So we're going to drive.
Oh. Yeah.
So I'm thinking of doing Sequoia National Park,
yeah,
Joshua Tree, then to Vegas.
Okay.
So 2 stops, a day in each place, and then to Vegas.
Have you chosen your roof?
The rooftop tent, yes. Yeah. It's on order. It's coming. It's like it folds out to be like a king-size bed inside. So all 3 of us can fit in it.
Yeah.
So.
See, listen.
So this is one thing now that I'm focusing on now is I'm trying to I spend money in the day and buying cool shit and blah blah blah. Like I'm not really interested in that. Now what I want to do is create memorable experiences for the family. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like my daughter wants all kinds of crap, right? I don't give her all that crap because I don't like she'd get a new toy and then a week later it's forgotten about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like last year we went on safari in Africa. We saw, you know, lions a foot away from us, you know, stuff like that you'll remember. And so like I want to do that. I want her to remember mom and dad as like doing cool shit and not just like, you know, buying cool shit for her or whatever, or giving her whatever she needed. You know, I want to create these experiences that she'll always remember, you know.
Well, not just, and also that unrealistic thing of like technically she's always seeing you like covered in blood or in some weird thing, but actually like getting to see you actually covered in real blood maybe one day, you know what I mean? like camping.
From camping?
Day. Yeah, just
chopping
like
my leg with
yeah, like covered in,
but then she may not react. She might not think it's real.
Yeah,
you know?
she won't even care.
She's like that's just juice, right?
Yeah. She's so intense, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
She's
been my biggest project probably since 2013 is like raising this kid. It's
she's all power.
Oh yeah, she's definitely headstrong.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that, but it's like guiding her in the right direction, making sure, and not being like a hover parent.
Yeah.
Because I have that tendency to be that way, but and allowing her to develop on her own, you know.
Yeah.
And giving her that creative space, but also like making sure she doesn't get into like the stupid stuff either, like, you know.
Yeah.
She watches YouTube a lot. There's a lot of ads on it. So I had to tell her.
Yeah, that shit is.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that shit kills me. Does she watch you just take the lid off the thing and then there's like a...
She used to be into that, but it's very interesting what she's watching now. She's into this thing called LPS, Little Pet Shop. There's these little animals, right?
Okay.
But she watches this one YouTube channel where this person reenacts scenes from movies or graphic novels or books or whatever with these things. So there's a little camera like down there and all you're seeing is a hand moving the things around. And it's a whole act. It's a whole play that this person's going through, right? and she's watching it. And then I caught her the other day because she wanted to FaceTime with one of her friends from school. So she was FaceTiming and like I walked away, I was unpacking boxes or whatever. And I come back and she has the camera set up with her little LPS. And I see the friend on the other side, like, and her little sister just watching Raven do this whole act with these little toys. It's kind of funny.
There's she
was performing for this kid.
One of my friends made a video on on a VHS called Lando Calrissian's like dance party. You know, it's like Lando. And,
is he adult?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like Lando Calrissian and like Barbie and yeah.
Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. But kids are doing it, and then she's doing it now. So it's interesting because I think it's creative. Like she's using her creative juices, like imagining. It's better than like being on an iPad playing Minecraft all day long. You know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But that's it. That's the biggest challenge with kids today is because like when we were little, we had to be creative, right? Your parents are not home, and you go outside and you figure out what to do, right? Because you only had 12 channels on the TV, right?
Yeah.
And there was no computer games and all that kind of crap. So we had to go out there and like figure out, you know, play war, play this, do that, be creative. Kids now, the problem with kids now is that like everything is shoved in front of their face. And so that they just sit there and they want to be entertained, but they don't have this desire to be motivated to go out there and do something. You know what I mean? So like I try to promote that as much as possible. Like be active.
You're building a gym in your house.
Yeah.
Oh, did you get the stall bars?
No, I haven't yet. I'm still flipping back and forth on which ones I want to get.
Yeah. You can check mine out too to figure out which ones you want. When you so when you're training, we were just talking about forms with what are you keeping busy with like in your own practice right now? Are you doing anything alone?
Yeah. I mean, I think what I'm trying to do alone is doing all the like tune-up stuff, like the you know, the kettlebell, the shoulder, working the shoulders, like all this stuff that I'm not doing in the gym or in training with you or you know, hitting Thai pads, like all the maintenance stuff. Because that now with this age at 45, like I realize like that stuff is the most important. So that's like when I'm watching whatever series I'm binge watching, like I'm stretching or doing strength conditioning or something like that, to protect myself for the future.
We got to do some stripper walks.
What do you mean by that?
There's all the animal walking that I do, but then there's like these other sequences that just really dial in. You know, the ass walking stuff that I do.
So I do that stuff. I do that stuff at home.
Yeah, I might have some flooring for you actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Before we do this, you have a big truck. When are you going to the Nürburgring?
I don't know. I was planning to do it this summer. But I don't think flying to Germany is probably the smartest thing. Not the smartest thing to do right now.
We went to the Nürburgring. We got snowed out.
Yeah, that was such a bummer.
Yeah, that was.
It was an interesting trip, though. That was still fun. Still fun.
To this day, one of the greatest because that M2 is great. Yeah. So Dan and I went to the Nürburgring.
Yeah, and then the minute we checked into the hotel, we arrived in Germany, drove to Nürburgring, and then checked into the hotel. And then the minute we checked in, I see it's like slightly snowing. And then I look at the Nürburgring Twitter feed and it says the track is closed. So then I call the school that we had booked the track driving session with, and they said, yeah, that's closed for the week.
Yeah.
So then we had to figure out what we were going to do. So we were in Germany for the weekend, and we spent the rest of the weekend in Germany.
Yeah. So we drove around, got to go to the Porsche Museum, which is crazy.
Yeah, in Stuttgart. And then we went to Baden-Baden.
We got to spa weekend.
Yep.
Speaking of, I've now devoted my life to sweating.
That place was interesting though, that bathhouse.
Yeah.
It was so weird. I mean, it was not a bathhouse, it was this amusement complex.
Huge.
Right,
yeah.
With these giant pools everywhere and then steam rooms and this and that, and everyone walking around naked.
Yeah.
It's definitely an experience that I hadn't experienced before. I've been to Japanese ones that are a little bit smaller, more intimate. This was gigantic.
Yeah.
It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was a little weird. Because I'd never done anything. I've never been to any of those places, and Europe kind of does it a little bit better than us.
Sure.
I mean, because it's kind of normal there.
Yeah.
And I mean that was like being from Florida. I told you, being from Florida, I hate white Christmas trees because it's like just a weird cokehead thing.
Yeah.
And but come to find out, like I got to see that trees actually turn white because of snow.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was kind of beautiful. Those roads, they were really beautiful.
Yeah,
that was the one thing that surprised me when we were ripping down those roads, because that's what we couldn't drive on the track, so we found one of the best driving roads in Europe.
Right.
That was from Baden-Baden to somewhere, and those roads were amazing. And then the trees, the way the snow was hanging off those trees, it looked like those frosted Christmas trees. You know, it was amazing.
It made me not judge my old neighbors anymore.
It was really pretty.
Yeah,
That
there
was
are all
really
these
big.
moms in Florida. You know, they had like weird back when you could get fake nails made of gold, and then they always they would always
Right,
do
right.
this fake. I just thought it was like a douchebag.
Well, you should have seen, E40, the rapper.
Uh-huh.
Last year he posted his Christmas tree. It was a white frosted Christmas tree, but it was upside down on the ceiling. So it just like came down to a point like about this high.
Just right in the middle of the room.
Yeah, in the middle of the room. It was kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
Oh my god. Yeah, so you're liking your new place.
Yeah.
You're in there. You're now unpacking boxes.
Yes.
In your functional, are you throwing anything away? Are you clearing out?
I'm trying to get rid of stuff. Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Difficult. I'm trying to get rid of my wife's stuff. Some of my wife's stuff. She hoards a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like, why do we have 5 of the same thing?
What do you hoard?
Oh, well, I was talking about earlier, shoes.
Shoes.
Oh, well, it was kind of, I didn't realize I had that many shoes because they're all in closets and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when we moved, they opened the boxes and kind of just laid them out on the floor. And it took up this huge area on the floor. I was like, oh my God, I need to get rid of these shoes. There's too many here. Because they were in closets, so I didn't really see. And I didn't realize I had that many pair of shoes.
You do have a... Yeah.
So I had a sneaker collection problem before.
Yeah.
Like way back in the day. Then I culled it down, like from 200 pairs of shoes down to 20, right?
Oh, shit. All right.
And I got down to 20 pairs of shoes, and I kept it that way for a while. And then a couple years ago, I started buying shoes again.
See, I was gonna get that way, and then what I realized was I kept buying shoes, but my foot's so wide, they all just died, and nothing fit.
What, they would just blow out the shoes?
Well, they just nothing fit. So I would
Right.
just buy them, and then I was like, I can't wear these. So I ended
that's
up
a good thing.
donating a lot. Yeah, it is a good thing. And then, and now I the only shoes that so in that I had to return a few, and then it gave me a store credit at this one place because they wouldn't let me return them for anything other than
Right.
store credit. And then they switched to a Birkenstock place, so now that's why I
you
own
have
a pair.
Birkenstocks?
Yeah, I have a
Oh,
pair
yeah.
of Birkenstocks.
Oh, yeah.
I keep wanting to. I have this slow motion video that I just put on a pair of socks and then put my foot in a pair of Birkenstocks,
Oh, yeah.
and I keep wanting to send it to Lisa.
Just post it to Instagram. Just post it to Instagram.
I keep,
Make sure they're rainbow socks.
yeah. I should totally do it because I know Lisa would just be like, ooh,
Well,
especially.
shoot like your barefoot, putting the sock on, then the foot going into the Birkenstock.
Yeah. Just make it, and I just want to send that to her just to drive her fucking crazy. Yeah. So I'm repeating a million conversations that you and I have had, but
okay.
this is something that is very important. So I'm always complaining about novelty workouts. Like we train for 6 weeks, and I feel if you're filming it, it's because it's novelty, and therefore you don't always do it, right? Because there aren't many things that you're doing all the time that you have to film. It's normal, right?
Right.
And then you're always training. Like you're like legit a martial artist. Like you taught wushu, you were on Jackie Chan team, like
Sure,
all that shit.
sure.
So what are you doing now? Because you don't have to. There's never going to be the Daniel Wu only had 6 weeks to learn this thing. There's never going to be that.
Right.
Like because you're always training.
Right. Yeah, to some degree, but it steps up when I have to do
Of course.
something like that, right? So right now, obviously, like after finishing Badlands, right?
Yeah.
First of all, like it was very rough on me physically.
Yeah.
Badlands, 3 seasons of that
Yeah.
was crazy, right? Like the finals, that final season that we worked on, season 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
We shot 40 fights, right?
Yeah.
40 fight scenes, and I think I was in like 31
Yeah.
or 32 of them. It was a lot,
Yeah.
right? And so I took some time off. Like I took probably a month or 2 off after coming back from Ireland and not doing anything, like just letting my body recover, and then slowly getting back into it again, and then going, okay, what are the things that I need to maintain at this age, and then also what are the things I want to do to improve on and get better. So like one of the things is like the floaty handstand thing. I'm still not there yet, right? And being a little more, I guess, getting more hinge control going on, core hinge control, and better control between upper and lower body function. You know, I mean, I can do it all, but I like, I have pains and aches and pains in here and there, and I want to get stronger in that way so that I don't have that. But also, because I was managed by Jackie Chan for 11 years. I've known him really closely for a long time. And like, you see all the pain he's in. Obviously his pain is also from injuries, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But like, I don't want to be in pain when I'm older,
Right.
right? Like, I see a lot of older people, my dad, my mom, they're all in a lot of kind of chronic pain. So now I'm focusing in terms of my martial arts study now. Like, I want to study not fighting, but I want to study like how to keep your body healthy.
Yeah, it's also since it's not novelty, because that's what hurts us, is we have our life and then we have our health.
Right.
But I think when you study martial arts, you realize like martial arts is a way of life that builds health, and if you just don't stop and you keep ticking away at it, you're gonna be fine. It's the right.
Yes, yeah. You just chip at it. You can do it intensely or a little bit, but just keep going, keep going. This is the problem I have with MMA, right? Mm-hmm. And people like really good athletes getting into MMA and being really good at it. That's you're a good fighter. Yeah. But doesn't make you a good martial artist, right? I think martial arts, like we talk about like Bruce Lee breaking down systems, right? Yeah. But systems are important for another thing, which is longevity, right? Yeah. So like, let's look at Kung Fu, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. And Chinese martial arts, right? You can do hard stuff like Kung Fu, you can go into Tai Chi, and then eventually into Qigong. And all that stuff, like you can age well into that. Yeah. You can go from doing hard forms, and then if you're in your 50s and 60s to Tai Chi, and then obviously you do it all at the same time, but you can focus more on, like, if you can't do the flips and jumps and stuff anymore at a certain age, I'm getting at that age now, I can't do that anymore. Then what doesn't mean your practice stops, it doesn't mean you're not a good martial artist. No, you go into the internal stuff, right?
Yeah, it actually means you're becoming a martial artist.
Yeah. And then you turn into the internal stuff and focus on that, because it's still great for you. You know what I mean? It's like, and then into the Qigong, right? And so that's what I like about Chinese martial arts, is this total system that's, from young to old, that you can practice. Whereas MMA, it's really meant for like a fine athlete, right? And when you're done fighting, and then most of them are done, they don't train anymore after that, right? And then there are these broken people, right? Mm-hmm. And so the true martial arts artists, like, I don't know, there's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, like they'll continue their practice. I know they will, right? Mm-hmm. But the ones that were in it just to fight and make money, like that, they're just going to be broken heaps at the end of it, right? Or like a boxer, or like any other athlete. You're just done with your career and you're done and you're broken, right? Yeah. But I think martial arts is meant to be a system that is designed for you to continue practice until your old age, to keep you healthy and fit and strong into your old age, right? Yeah. And I think it's never about being the best fighter in the world. That's not what martial arts is about. Like, for some reason now, because of UFC and MMA, it's all about being the best fighter in the world. And if you're not the best fighter in the world, then what is your martial arts practice about? It's not about that at all. That's one tiny little sliver of what martial arts is about. It's about you learning enough so that you can defend yourself against somebody who doesn't know anything, or is just, attacking you. And then challenge yourself with other martial artists that are high level, right? Yeah. So that you know where your baseline is. But it's really about, like, how to maintain your body, how to stay healthy, how to live life, how to be a good person. It's all those things. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that MMA kind of lacks, is this sport. Yeah. And it's not a system, Yeah,
I was talking to Gene about that. There's martial sport and then there's martial arts, right? Yeah. Or combat sports. And
that's fine too. They're totally awesome. Fine. It's totally fine. I respect that. I love it too. But I'm in the long game,
And I was telling this to someone, it's Bruce Lee. I was like, yeah, great martial artist, died young, so he wasn't that good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, if you really think about it, you killed yourself. Like, you trained so well.
The candle burned too hot.
Yeah. And that's the thing we were talking about, Qigong.
True. No, true. Very true.
You got to balance the fire and the water.
Yeah, right? He was all external, no internal, right?
Yeah, and if it's all fire, you just burn out. So, like, the body is fire and the mind is water. And that's the way that Qigong is supposed to balance those forces, yin and yang.
I often wonder, well, if he had made it to older age, what his practice would have evolved into.
Yeah. What I mean? What would have happened?
Because what he was doing at that time was what he could have done at that age and what his body was available to do. But once the body starts breaking down, how do you adapt to that, right? And how would he have adapted? I would have been really interested to see how that evolved.
What people don't understand too is, like, there's a reason why, like, when I was learning how to punch from my dad took a board and he just put a piece of leather on it and he was like, punch that, and I was like, that's too hard. I was fucking 8, right? And he goes, don't hit it hard, right? And I was like, huh? And he goes, and hit it right. And then now thinking about that, he was, if he was a bomb disposalman and Navy SEAL kind of guy, and he's like, if you have to use your fist, you don't punch like a boxer, because if you break your hand, then you can't
Yeah,
use your
use your
hands.
hands, right.
And if we think about how technology and how like technology, whether it's a gun, whether it's shoulder replacement surgery, what it does is it makes us train differently because we're not dealing with those immediate repercussions of I just blew my knee out on the battlefield and they're coming.
Right.
Because you have to
Right.
train differently. If I'm an MMA guy, I might fight twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, right? And that's when I'm young and hungry.
Right.
And so if I blast myself out in that one fight, but then imagine like a long time ago, if you have a fight on that level, when you walk out the door, like I remember hearing this story about my dad. He had a bayonet shoved through his armpit into his lung, and he had to fight these guys, and then he had to leave. And then in that time, he came behind a group of dudes that were ambushing a battalion of Marines, and so it's like, looks like I'm fighting again, and it's like, and it's like that's the difference between the octagon and martial arts.
Sure.
Because martial arts is, and you and I might be training, or you and I might be in this moment, right? Because we're just farming.
Sure.
And then bandits are coming.
Yeah.
And then we have to defend our land.
Yeah.
But after that, if we don't farm, our families don't eat.
Yeah.
So if you and I just poured it all out on the mat over there, and then you need 2 months of recovery.
Right.
Your family's going to starve.
Right.
And I don't think we see the connection to nature that is the Tao.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's
and that's what a martial arts system has.
Right.
It has
Right.
all the philosophy, it has all that connected to it, which makes it grounded, right?
Yeah.
And not just a sport.
Yeah. And it's funny how in the social media world, there's so much glorifying of train hard, do this, but what about constantly ticking away? It's like, but no one, that's not interesting.
Yeah, it's not Instagrammable.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To just constantly go like this. They want to see these peaks. They want to
Yeah.
see the peaks, right? Or they want to see the peaks or the downs.
Yeah.
They don't want to see the even steady.
Yeah.
But when you get to the end of the line, though, that's
That should be, you can have it, but if you don't want it, I can use it. I'll be like, just did 1,000 push-ups. Kind of feel like killing myself. just keep coming back.
Right.
Just did 1,000 push-ups. Oh my God, I'm going to kill myself.
Right.
Just did it. Check out me in these thong.
Right.
Gonna
Right.
kill myself. You
Right.
know what I mean? Just constantly like.
But it's interesting now being, like I call it old man training now, right?
Yeah.
It's very different than what I did when in my 20s and 30s. In my 20s and 30s, like fucking go, right?
Yeah.
And just like trying to kill yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then I would kill myself, right?
Yeah.
Now I can go I can go for a long time, and just not be burnt out. I can recover quickly.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff, and I feel different now. I feel stronger in a different way.
Yeah. You have old man strength.
Yeah.
You're a tendon.
Yeah. And yeah, it's definitely an interesting process to understand what your body's been doing all this time, and like being aware of it and track it and watch it. It's very interesting to me.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And also like meeting you and training with you, it changed my perspective a lot too.
well, I'm the old man.
Well, because it was at a time
yeah.
where like I was just realizing I'm becoming an old man.
Yeah.
So I realized like I had to change my training practices, right?
Yeah.
And I realized like although I was like flexible and strong in a lot of ways, I wasn't flexible and strong in a whole bunch of other ways, you know. And so I needed to work on that.
Yeah.
And even for the show, like what I realized like I needed to train was not to be martial arts stuff. I have all that programmed in me. It was like learning how to move better, you know, more efficiently, and also recover faster, blah blah, all that kind of stuff, without and then not injure myself, you know, and be smart basically. And
not try.
yeah, and I'm actually really glad that Badlands came along, because prior to that I had not done a lot of martial arts stuff, so that my training really was just relegated to like Muay Thai basically 2 or 3 times a week. And so the Badlands got me back into it and got me thinking about it a lot more, and then reclaiming it, basically taking it back and going, okay, I need to keep training this and keep doing it.
Badlands, yeah, it was so intense. I just remember like, there's so much training, and then there's everything you're doing is in the cold.
Yeah, which is the worst situation. Doing that kind of activity in explosive muscle groups.
So fucking cold. It literally took me after Badlands, the way because I had to leave for a week before I had to leave because my visa kind of ran out, so I had to leave and then come back. And so I just got like Europe weather map. I just looked up the weather in Europe, you know, and I went to the warm. Just found the warmest place and bought a plane ticket there.
Where'd you go? I thought you went to Italy.
And I went to Croatia.
Oh, Croatia, that's right.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be in like the 80s, and it wasn't. It was raining. It was just storming, and then I went to Spain. And it was raining. I mean, it's basically, I was taking Ireland with me, man. Yeah. So it was, I need to look at more than just the temperature.
Yeah, it was cold, but like first season was terrible, man. Like New Orleans, that heat was bad. Like you guys came down there. Yeah. But trying to work in that weather was really, really, really difficult. Like I'd rather take the cold than the heat any day. Yeah. Just because it's such a pain in the ass, like just sweating and just wet clothes all the time. You know, it's terrible.
Yeah, and how do you hide that? You know what I mean? It's like you can kind of hide that you're cold.
I had 6 of those leather jackets because I kept sweating through them. It's like every half an hour, there'd just be sweat coming through the leather, right? So take that off. Take the thing and just put on another outfit and switch it out. It's such a pain in the ass like that. And then wiping sweat all the time, you know, wiping sweat off of everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And then after a while, because it's supposed to take place in the South, we kind of just left the glistening look on because it's, you know, that's what the South was, right?
You're not winning.
But, and you could see, like first season, you could see it looks hot.
Yeah.
It looks really hot. Yeah. And it was really hot. It was terrible. Like being in some of those spaces to fight in, like we were in an old armory. It was built during the Civil War era. And we're filming this fight scene, this first season with me and Emily fighting, where we switch all these weapons out. Oh, yeah. It was like 6 days there. It was our last fight of the season. And it was like 100 degrees outside. And it was like probably 98 inside. It was like 98% humidity. And they had these torches going. So this black smoke is coming off it. So you come out and your face is all black. It was crazy. It was terrible. Like that inside being stuck in that thing and that kind of heat with camera lights on and stuff fighting.
I think that place was that also the place where one of the last scenes was shot and it was down? Or no, that was the old power plant.
That was one. This is the place where like Aramis MK's character was being held in prison. Yeah. And then, you know, I go after Emily there in that scene.
Because that power plant made me sick.
Oh.
Like, I mean, I just lost, I mean, it didn't make me sick. I just lost my voice.
Yeah, because there's just dust everywhere. Yeah, there's dust everywhere, and then part of that power plant is just infested with pigeons, so pigeon shit. So that's probably also what was doing it. And then of course, all the crew have masks, and then the actors can't wear masks,
and you're breathing
lines
heavy,
on your face, and you're breathing all that crap in. Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, I mean that goes to show, like in this COVID, is like I honestly just feel that the amount of environmental things you've been exposed to, I don't think any of this stuff is gonna. Yeah. I mean, we could. Yeah, I just think you're relatively
the smoke.
Teflon.
Remember all the smoke?
Yeah.
On Badlands. Yeah. I still don't know what the smoke budget was. I meant to check that, but I never did.
Yeah, they were saying on was it Game of Thrones? Like they just like all that black smoke. They're just burning diesel fuel.
Really?
That's what. Yeah, someone was telling me that. I don't.
Oh,
you
God.
know, I didn't.
We had all that healthy stuff, but it was a lot of it all the time. Like you know, these smoke machines everywhere, blowing that smoke everywhere. It had to have been at least $200,000 in smoke.
So I finished shooting that situational awareness thing. In the world of self-defense. Yeah, what do you see that's like happening that people are like talking about? And I'm not telling you to agree with me that I think it's situational awareness, but like you don't have to. You could tell me I'm completely wrong. I'm okay with that.
For me, it's really hard to reconcile like, you know, a self-defense workshop. Yeah. Right? Because I'm a martial artist trained my whole life. And I know there's certain situations that I'm not going to be good in, right? And so to go like, okay, I'm going to do this for 6 weeks and learn this, like stomp your foot and do this and then do that to you. That's not going to happen. You're going to get fucking killed. You know what I mean? Like if someone physically is, you know, strong enough to attack you, you know, it's not going to be that simple, the situation of getting out of it, right? And so if you've not practiced any kind of martial arts your whole life or for several years or whatever, and you just all you've done is like a year or 6 months or a couple weeks workshop, I'm not confident that that's going to protect you. You know what I mean? Right. So I'm really mixed feelings about what self-defense really is, right? And to me, something like situational awareness is smarter because it's about you avoiding a situation completely, like not getting in that kind of situation, you know, as opposed to all of a sudden being in your face and then you can't do anything about it. It's like preempt that. It's like driving, like race driving, right?
Yeah.
You're not looking at the turn you're in. You're looking at the turn you're about to go into, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at the turn you're in, you're going to crash, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a similar concept. It's like be aware of what's going to happen before it happens, right? And it's also you have to find a balance of not being like walking into a place being fucking paranoid, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like understanding, getting a virtual lay of the land, and then understanding how to operate in that situation. You know.
Yeah.
For me, it's natural because I worked in a bar as a doorman, like a bar
Yeah.
bouncer, right?
Yeah.
So you have the sense of like, okay, who's walking in, who looks like they could be trouble, who looks like they won't be trouble, and then where is it happening, and just being aware of it, but not being intrusive to anybody, you know. So that is just naturally in my head that I learned that from that kind of experience. But
all right, you mentioned connection, and then one of the things that blew me away. So, and we both did the stunt driving course.
Mm-hmm.
It blew me away on how, because I'm always like, you got to connect,
Mm-hmm.
you got to connect everything. Finger makes the toe stronger,
right?
And it's crazy, and I don't think people understand this of how connected the car is to your eyes. Were they doing that to you when you were doing the thing? Like we were doing like the slides and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you would do a slide and they could see you from 100 yards away and they'd be like, I can tell you were looking there and then not.
That's why the car went there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they say that weird thing is like if you see a deer on the side of the road, if you look at it, you're going to hit it.
Right.
If you look past it, you'll go, it's this weird thing that your body will do.
Uh-huh.
So you have to look at where your intention is,
right?
And you'll end up in that direction. Especially sliding, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest mistake. Is like you're sliding this way, and you look that way, you're gonna keep going that way. You gotta figure out where you need to go and figure out how to get that car going that direction, right?
Keep your eyes going there.
Right.
I had a thing.
It's weird. It's a weird thing because your natural instinct is to look at the danger, right?
Yeah.
But what you need to do is look at where the out is and get out,
Right.
and maybe that's what situationist is.
And it's moving with intention, and this is what this is kind of one of the things that kind of concerns me in times where people are moving into high stress environments with potentially predatory or opportunistic people, because all we're trying to do as martial artists is get you focusing on what you're afraid of, and now you can be distracted, and then I can manipulate you, and I'm always struggling with it's just trying to like workshop how I can put different types of stress that we're going to focus on, meaning like law enforcement and all these hot button issues that people are talking about. Yet imagine the stress that people go through just by reading their feed, their social feed. Like they're under total stress, right? And then that's making us make reactionary decisions, tribal out, doing all these other things, right?
Yes.
Yet for some reason we're and I'm not sticking up for anyone because I'm always about training and I'm always about awareness. But what happens when we are like driving really fast? What happens when there's a guy with a gun or a wall of people standing there with billy clubs? Like we get really stressed, we get really afraid, and then we start looking for everyone that's dressed like us to where we can tribal out because those people are dressed like that. And then now there's like a crazy battle there. It's a weird thing, and seeing the ways that we're handling stress right now. And I really wish people would do something like martial arts.
Yeah. Because we talk about that all the time, about how martial arts training is really training you to be calm in those chaotic moments, right? Yeah. And that's really what it is. It's not about self-defense or whatever. It's being being calm and then reacting in the proper way, as opposed to just being reactionary and going, reacting to the energy, right?
Yeah.
That's huge. It's huge, like huge. If people could think that way, we wouldn't have all this conflict that we're having right now, right?
And using passion and that, because I just did a thing the other day and I was like blaming Hollywood, and I was actually thinking of you, and I'm like, I was like, it's so funny because you're so in tune with that. Like you're very diplomatic. You're not going to make weird emotional decisions. Like you'll let your emotions guide you.
Right.
But how in storytelling, the person does need a catalyst to sort of get that. It's a revenge film or something like that. But in real life, I mean, as a martial artist, I don't think, unless you've been in front of a jiu-jitsu player that knows every move you're going to make, like you can't react to them.
Yeah.
You can't. Like everything they're doing is, if you're reacting, I know when I touch you, you can only do one of two things right now, and I have both exits sealed.
Right. Well, it's funny because I actually subconsciously put myself in those situations all the time.
Right.
Like working on Badlands.
Yeah.
Not just the fighting part, but like
Yeah.
being a producer and just being amongst
Yeah.
this chaos of trying to make a production happen.
Yeah,
And being
yeah.
calm in it and being like, okay, I've got my acting side down, I got the producer side down, I'm like handling all this stuff while it's like crazy. It is crazy, right? You know.
Yeah, you're really good at that. Yeah.
And then the race driving is the same thing. It's like being on a track. You know, it's very fucking intense, but you gotta find the zen in that moment. Otherwise, if you're just reacting to every single turn, you're gonna crash for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and then you know, in life in general, you know, when you come into these conflict situations, I just love being in those kinds of situations, being like calm and being okay, boom, this is what I need to do, boom, 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 and seeing this matrix, and then getting through it. I love that. I hate, actually, what I just don't like this is the idle times in between work where I'm kind of just like floating and my brain's thinking about random things here and there. You know, I talked to a lot of people about that. I was like, I don't do well during the, you know, when it's not intense. Not that I crave it all the time. I do enjoy not being in those situations sometimes, but I also realize that I'm pretty good in those chaotic situations, probably from martial arts training, you know, your whole life.
Yeah, I mean, you thought about, because, you know, when all this stuff was happening with China and then the violence towards the Chinese community and then your
my initial reaction was I was fucking pissed. I wanted to say some crazy
Yeah.
shit on Instagram, but I didn't do that, right? And I let it seep in, and I let myself process it. That's what I was saying. I needed to process it, right? And I needed to understand why I'm feeling that way, and look at it like my whole history, like why I'm felt this way. Because growing up, I've had little bits. I've never had crazy racial crime against me, but little bits of discrimination that build up. So when I saw this stuff happening, it made me angry, right? So I had to accept that anger. I had to understand that anger, where it was coming from, process it, then go, okay, well, now what I'm going to do with this. Yeah. What I'm going to do with this is constructive and not like stupid and just be like, yell at some fools on Instagram. You know, that doesn't do anything, right?
Yeah, it just makes more...
it makes it more tribal, right?
Not only does it make it... Yeah, it makes it tribal, and then there's that other piece of it, and it's what I was saying when the, you know, there's 4 Nazis in a room a long time ago, and then they made a video, and there was literally only maybe like 5 Nazis in America, and then they made a video, and then everyone goes, I hate them, and then they just shared it 10 million times, and now there's a ton of Nazis. You know what I mean? Now, like, everyone thinks it's a valid cause because we didn't take that breath. And there were these interviews that went on with like violent criminals, and after they went through like a certain program, I remember like kind of the what do you call it? The consensus was, if I would have just taken a breath, I probably wouldn't have. You know what I mean? And hindsight's 20/20, but like to really put people in those high stress situations and just say, this is why I feel that there needs to be a different protocol around the share button. Like there needs to be like share. Do you really want to share this? I mean, think about it. Is it true? Is it? Have you done your research? Share. You know, you have to like now type in this code and then do 10 push-ups and then call your mom and then now share. You know,
it's interesting because you have to find a balance, right? You can't just edit yourself all the time, right? Because like I'll do that too. I'll over-edit myself and not express my, and then it comes up somewhere else down the line. So you got to figure out a way to be smart about it and figure out how to express yourself in a constructive way that's, you know, not totally emotionally charged. You know,
well, because emotions are. We're giving too much power to emotions as opposed to like listening to them.
And that's what's happening in politics and all in the media today, right? And that's what's conditioning everyone to do this, right? To act in this way. Because social media definitely promotes that. Our president is doing that kind of shit. The media is doing that kind of shit. It's all reactionary stuff. Oh my God, do you know about this? Oh, what am I supposed to do? Blah. Even with the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd situation, it's like, no, wait, okay, calm, and then let's act, right? Like let's process this and then act, and not just like go out there with torches and burn the place down. You know, it's not, that's not the solution. You know, that's not the solution. That's what everyone feels. That's fine. That's totally fine to feel that way.
And
I wanted to do that too. I want to go smash racist people in the face, right? But at the same time, it's like that's not going to solve anything. I'm not going to solve a single goddamn thing, right? To do that.
Have you ever punched a Nazi?
No, I've never punched a Nazi. I've definitely punched a dude, a racist dude in the face before, but. Way a long time, like 20 years ago maybe. But you know what I mean, like that kind of like doing that to a racist person is just going to make them more racist. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's going to make them hate me more, hate Asians more, hate black people more. You know, it's like that's not going to solve the problem. And it's not like I'm even trying to change their mentality. For me, it was more like, okay, I know there's some people that are like semi they're not probably not racist, but they don't realize that their white privilege or their privilege has gotten them to a certain place, and they act in certain ways. And so some of those people might like Bruce Lee. And so my article was like, you know, if you like Bruce Lee, think about this. You know, that's what the perspective was.
Exactly. And there is, you know, and I remember.
I'm sure there's some racists that love Bruce Lee too. You know,
yeah,
yeah, because of what he represents, not because he's Chinese, but because what he represents. So I was like, okay, I want to get that perspective in there. I want to get a bunch of people in there that, like, you know, don't realize Bruce Lee's Chinese to go, oh yeah, and like, you know, and think about it in that way. You know?
How about I was talking to these people, and one person would say anything that was relatively ignorant, and I think we need to start looking at nuance all the time, because the emotion is going to throw you right. So it's like, I say something just relatively ignorant to you, and you know, I know you and I have a relationship where I could say stupid shit all day, you know, and you're like, yeah, it doesn't mean any harm, but so I know my crowd. But there are people that when you say that, they throw you right into the hate bucket, as opposed to just kind of the ignorant or inconsiderate bucket. You know, it's like we don't have like the emotion doesn't give like a level of gradient to like you know, it's like, yeah, it's sure, like some, you know white people do this, and but you know, it's like that's not hate all the, like, it's you know, a lot of times it's not hate, and to tell someone it's hate is oftentimes that moment of turning it into hate. Like, then they'll start hating you. Yes. It
weaponizes it.
Yeah. It's I always say it's the moment where, because Raven's gonna say, "I hate you, Dad." You know, hopefully,
for sure.
She's totally gonna.
Hasn't happened yet, but I'm expecting it in some way.
But you have an opportunity at that time, right? You can either get an organization and take her down, right? You know, make sure she never works again, right? Never even gets her first job, or send her to a room. Let her sort it out. She comes back, there's food there, and then you guys can talk about it later. Right. But that says that you and her have connected, and you have a correlation with each other, and there's an importance behind your relationship. Sure. And I think that's something, when it goes back to connection, where we can hopefully see that we connect. Like, even Republicans and like. I was talking to an artist today, and I was like, hey, when I was an artist, I would have killed to have like an uptight conservative manager helping me out. I would fucking killed for that.
Sure.
I mean, you and I would be sitting on my, you'd have a yacht, I'd have a yacht right now, and we just microphones. That's it. Sure. And I wouldn't be dressed like this. Fucking ascots and shit.
Ascots. Is that your measure of success?
Yeah. How big my ascot is.
Rich people wear ascots?
No. Yeah, that is definitely not.
You can also call it a fouillard.
A what?
A fouillard.
What's that?
It's French, I think.
Really?
What that thing is, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Wu. Classy as shit.
Blue collar classy.
Yeah.
You gave me that term.
Yeah. I did, actually.
Well, let's talk about that. Right. I really love that term.
Okay.
Actually, because I actually feel like that really encapsulates who I am, because like I like intellectual stuff, and I like dirty down blue collar stuff, and I can't be too much of either.
Right.
Like, you know, I don't like to be too heady, and you know, that stuff kind of actually hanging around people like that gets really boring, and that, like, everything they say has to be really important and all that kind of stuff. That really drives me crazy. And then I can't be too, like, you know, I can't hang around like farmers all day, but I do like it. I like that work. I like doing stuff with my hands. I really like doing stuff with my hands. Like, it's really an important thing to me.
Well, people don't know that you went off and did that show where you like built a house.
Yeah, so like, first of all, I studied architecture because I love drawing. I love making things, right?
Yeah.
And then martial arts is also your hands, right? And then I built furniture in college, right? And then, so when this reality show came around, this is like, what is it, 3 years ago that I did in China. It was you know, I've been offered so many reality shows in China, and all of them were like stupid celebrity game shows where you go, look at this celebrity doing this silly things, like running up this hill with a bunch of stones on his back. But this one was, you know, based on a situation that's happening around the world, but especially in China, which is people leaving rural communities, like villages that are hundreds of years old, to go live in cities, and then the villages are being empty. So it's like, what do we do with those? And so the idea was, we go to 4 different villages, redesign these village homes in a way that brings it into the 21st century, modern, and try to give them a guide path for what they could do with their villages for the future, right?
Yeah.
Or bring people back to the countryside. And I don't know if we were successful with it, but we built and designed and worked, and it was very fun and hands-on. And the whole part of the show was really me showing these young kids that had never lifted a hammer in their life, like how to do real work, right?
Yeah.
And that was funny because it was basically me as an old man, like yelling at these kids, like, "How come you don't know how to handle? You don't know how to use a hammer?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you?" Like screaming at these kids, right? Well, not really, but
yeah, really.
Yeah.
He was screaming with his eyes.
I just, after a while, I just like couldn't. I mean, it was like that typical, like, I'm 45 and these are 20-something-year-old millennial kids, right? Who had never, like I got in this conversation with one girl about, she wanted to know why I knew how to clean my windows. I was like, "Oh, I learned it from washing my car." And she goes, "Oh, you wash your own car?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I used to wash my car all the time."
I had a
Like,
kid
all
in
the
here. We were cleaning. Clean the dojo.
Right.
Like, we were always sweating it up. Clean the dojo, so we're cleaning it. And the way he was looking at the vacuum, and I was like, "Hey," I was like, do you not know how to use a vacuum?" He goes, "We pay people to do this."
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is like now with those kids, not all of them, but a lot of them get stuff done for them, right? Everything, their laundry, their cooking, everything. So they get to a certain age and they can't do shit, right? Like I remember going on a camping trip with my nephews, and they were probably like in their late teens at the time, 19, 20, and we're watching them wash dishes. And they're putting soap on every individual item.
You were pissed. I remember that.
It's a double took. I was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Fill the sink up with water and put the soap in there, and then rinse in the sink. Then you don't have to wash each individual."
This was your
thing.
RV trip?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you. Yeah.
So yeah, it's surprising to me because we had to do chores. I had to do chores as little. These kids don't have to do. Never had to do chores, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to. I think I got to start it now with Raven. I was waiting for the right age. Because she's like that now.
Yeah.
Like she expects everything to be handed to her. Because we do that. We're home all the time. I need a glass of water. Okay, I go get her a glass of water. I give her a glass of water. But it's like now I think I need to start telling her, like, go get it yourself.
Well, and you'd rather do that because it's almost like when you're efficient. I think, and this is a hard part about being a mentor, is you have to just prepare to slow down.
Yeah.
And make sure that the thing they're getting is just for them, and you're not waiting on it too.
Yeah.
It's not like you're making us dinner tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can't do that, or do the dishes before you go to bed, because like they're never gonna get to bed.
Yeah.
But when is that time of day where you can let them do it, and they could technically have all day to do? It's not like you're really thirsty. Hey, Raven, go get some water.
Right.
Because then next thing you know, she's off playing with the puppy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Completely.
So you have to be able to slow down too.
Yeah, it's very humbling to be a parent.
Yeah.
It's very life affirming in some ways. But yeah, that you have to have a lot of patience. Like I catch myself all the time. I have to like, okay.
Yeah.
Take a breather. Now go.
Yeah. So when we think about blue collar classy, is that what okay, blue collar classy. Yeah, like there's subtlety behind what you do. You like trucks, you like building shit.
Yeah.
So what are the projects? The thing that I like about it is the things that you choose. So you have tiny cars that are badass, look great.
I just like doing, I don't like to do what everyone else does.
Yeah.
So like, I'm into cars, but I'm into like weirder cars.
Yeah.
I've just always been that way. I always liked fringe music.
Yeah.
Whether it was like punk or hip hop or whatever. I always like fringe art. I've always been like the kind of guy that's like right on the edge of like the mainstream and the alternative stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like right there. Never fully either, but in terms of my taste of stuff, like I don't like the pedestrian. Not that I don't like it. I do appreciate that stuff, but the things I want are like unique.
This is something that I'm trying to grab some of the things that I find most interesting. Not just about you, just that you and I have kind of talked about is to artists that are always so mainstream in their thought. Oh wait, I gotta pause this. As an artist, you're kind of punkish. Like you like the fringy stuff, you like the alternative stuff, but at the same time, you will do mainstream things.
Yeah.
And I sabotage myself my entire life.
Right.
By getting into mainstream places and then just arting at them
Yeah, like,
into where, yeah. And
right.
almost like as a statement of,
right.
like, I remember going on a country music television thing, and it was my opportunity to play some of these amazing songs
right.
that they wanted me to do,
right.
and I got 10 minutes to play 3 songs.
Right.
Instead, I played an 11-minute song about killing hookers. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, you know, great advice of like how you do mainstream things to fund, like the importance of, you know, you are pop.
Sure,
you're pop by your own terms.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know, as an actor, it is important that you are. I mean, you are a commodity as an actor, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to be able to have the freedom to choose the jobs you want to choose, you have to get to a certain point of mainstream success or value.
Yeah.
You are a commodity. I have to admit that. I'm a commodity
yeah.
to a film production, right?
Yeah.
Daniel Wu equals this much in box office or whatever. But you have to work to get to that point. If you're only doing alternative stuff, you can do that, but you're not going to get the opportunities you always want all the time, right? And so that's a choice I made. It's like, I'm going to do just enough of the mainstream stuff so that I can continue doing the alternative stuff and not be broke and poor, right?
Yeah.
And also, but I do enjoy the mainstream stuff. It's not like I'm selling out.
Yeah, you support that stuff. Yeah.
I think, to me, I don't separate. I think good quality stuff is good quality stuff. And it can be a E.T., mainstream as hell, you know, Jim Cameron movie, or it can be some weird Vincent Gallo Brown Bunny thing. Like, I like both of those things. I can do both, right?
Yeah.
And so, but, you know, I built up my career first as the mainstream star, and then became this huge, you know, pop star, mainstream star in Asia, so that I could get to a point where then I could then pick and choose what I wanted to do later, right? And so, and also doing the mainstream stuff got me to look at everything. I did romantic comedies, I did everything, you know.
Yeah.
And I did a bunch of stuff, and I realized what I liked and didn't like.
Yeah.
And then eventually I got into this groove of now what I'm doing, what I want to do is only stuff I really want to do now.
Yeah.
So it can be mainstream. It doesn't have to be mainstream, but it's just stuff I want to get into and learn from. Because to me, I'm at a point in my career now where it's not about achieving anything really anymore. Yeah. I mean, maybe trying to achieve a little more notoriety in America as an Asian American male, because I think that's important. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm back here because I could have stayed in Asia and made tons of money, been a huge star there. Everyone loved me, blah blah. But I came back here and basically restarted here because I think it's important for the next generation of Asian Americans to grow up and see other guys like them on screen and go, I can do that too.
Yeah.
You know? And not that it's this thing that you can only do in Asia, but it can happen here in America too, right?
Yeah.
And that it's, you know, part of my article about the Bruce Lee is like, it's kind of fucked up that Bruce Lee, you know, made his start in the 70s and nothing happened between him and now, like only the past few years that we're seeing Asian stars come to the mainstream, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my goal, is to be part of that mainstream in America that allows, you know, other kids growing up, Asian American boys and girls growing up and going, I can do that too, right? And I don't have to be just a lawyer, doctor, mathematician, whatever that my parents want to be, but I can be creative. I can do creative, fun stuff, right? That's what I'm doing. Why are we getting to that point? Where do we get to that point?
Just the importance of like understanding that what I learned from you is not judging yourself.
Yes,
like,
right.
So that's technically like my time with you. It made me just go back to that moment of realizing, pop, like Radiohead is pop,
right?
Like they're pop,
right.
Like they have great hooks. That, you know, E.T. pop, and then everyone will talk about, you know, I only make art films and I only do this, but then they love Fight Club, and that's like, yeah.
So because to me, it's really about like. Art, for me, art is about this message you're trying to send out, right? And to me, it's like you want to send that out to as many people as possible, not just to this little tiny band because I'm this artist and I only do art, right? I want to send it out to because I want to affect people. Yeah. This is why I love movies so much. I'm affected so much by movies. Like I love movies and TV shows because I get affected by them, and I want to do the same as an actor, as a producer, as a director. I want to affect audiences as well. Right, and so it doesn't matter to me what platform it's on. It can be, if the subject matter is indie and small and independent, I'll do it that way. And I have. You've seen the movie I directed.
My all-time favorite movie, which we're going to get to that.
Right, that's not mainstream at all.
Not
right?
at all. But
like my career as an actor is super mainstream, but the movie I directed was not at all.
Yeah.
It was super underground, super subversive, done for $100,000. Right, so you can do that, and then I can go do another, you know, commercial thing. You know, it doesn't matter to me. The point is the way the message is delivered and how it's delivered. And do people get that message? That's the most important thing to me. I've definitely spent a lot of time in my life doing really art house movies that no one fucking saw, that I busted my ass on, and I was like,
yeah,
why did I do this? Like, I poured my heart and soul in this movie, and like, 2,000 people saw it. You know what I mean? It's like, as opposed to some other, you know, Cops and Robber movie I did, and like millions of people saw it. You know.
Yeah. Welcome to my age 13 through age 40.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's very, sometimes it's like, you just get like, you hope you're doing something small, and you hope it like blows up, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you just get disappointed, right?
Yeah, we can't all be Clerks, you know.
Right.
Clerks was,
Yeah, you can't be that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like even Kevin Smith evolved, right?
And he did it to do that.
Yeah.
Like once he got the opportunity.
All of them did it.
Yeah.
Spike Lee, you know, all did that, right? Started off small, and
Spike Lee,
she's got to have it, right? You know, and then now look what he's doing now.
Yeah.
I think they all did that, right? But and then there's like Roger Waters and blah blah blah, people like that just stay in that lane. That's fine. That's totally fine. But you know, they know where their audience is, and they want to speak to just that audience.
Did you ever read Hunter S. Thompson's review of the Ducati 900 SS?
No.
He was like really, I believe, Hunter S. Thompson. He was really into motorcycles, and they sent him this Ducati, and he wrote this review. It's really cool. All right, let's talk about Heavenly Kings, because it is funny, because it's a juxtaposition. It's very punk. It's about pop. It's about the most pop thing there is.
It is also saying like fuck you to the mainstream, also.
And it's saying fuck you to the mainstream. It's also, when people talk about step into your fears, it blacklisted you, almost ruined your life. So you basically you tried, like, Dan tried to sabotage his career, but he fucking couldn't. Right? Yeah, should have been about a pop band that kills hookers. Maybe you could have done a little bit better next time.
Right.
But let's talk about that. Like,
so
it's one of my favorite movies.
The Heavenly Kings came about in a weird time in my life where I was like, you know, questioning all this stuff. Like, you know, the entertainment industry is all superficial and fake and blah. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
And then compounded with the fact that at that time, boy bands around the world were just like going crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like Westlife and that. And then in Asia, there's a group called F4 from Taiwan. They were like hugely famous. And then even now, like the Korean pop boy bands are a premeditation of that. Right. Yeah. So it was huge, and so I was like, all this like, and the reality shows were also going on too. The reality shows just started going, right? Yeah. This is 2006 when I started working on this, and so the reality shows were just coming out. There's a bunch of fluffy shit out there, and I just was like, what is all this crap? Yeah. And so then I processed it in this way, which is like, first the really original idea was, let's make a movie lampooning boy band life. Right, so like Zoolander makes fun of male modeling, this is going to make fun of being in a boy band, right? But it was going to be like a Spinal Tap type of thing, right? Yeah. And it then eventually evolved into Spinal Tap. Originally, we were going to make a feature film like Zoolander, but then when I thought about like, okay, we're going to have to fill a stadium with fans, audience members for a concert scene, like we're not going to be able to afford that. That's like too crazy, right? So then I dropped the idea. Then 6 months later, I suddenly had this epiphany. I was like, okay, I got the idea. We're going to become this boy band. We're not going to be acting it. We're going to become a boy band. And we're going to go out there and do this. Like, go perform, go do all the promotions, do all this stuff, right? And live the life and film it. And then mix in some, film it like Spinal Tap. Yeah. But Spinal Tap was, mostly fake. We're going to film mostly real stuff and then inject a bunch of fake scenes in there with this thing. Right. So then you're not like really sure when you're watching it. Is it real? Is it fake? Is it a mockumentary? Is it a documentary? What is it? But it's all a social commentary basically on the frivolousness of the entertainment business. Basically. Right. And so the thing why I pick boy bands is because it's the perfect media to explain that. Right. It's like really good looking, don't know how to sing, you use autotune to fix them, and then this package that you sell. Right? Yeah. And girls buy into it, people buy into it because it's a product, right? And you spread rumors. Right. It's all about spreading rumors. Right. Well, that too. That just gets more attention. It's spin. And all that. Like hitting all those topics about how to become famous in this world, right? Because that was when the whole idea with fame became this whole other thing. Yeah. Right. Now we know what it is, right? But that time it was just blowing up. Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian, they're all coming to the frame. Yeah. And it was like, they're famous for what? I don't know. Nothing. Yeah. Well, one's a socialite, the other's a social, but what does that mean? Like, but then they start making tons of money, and it's like, whoa. How is this happening, right? Yeah. So it was a meditation on all of that, right? All that stuff. But we did it method, right? So
you had
we
to
became
do it.
the boy band, and we went out there and did all the shit, and we were terrible, but that was kind of the point of it. Only one guy could actually sing, so he was kind of the lead singer, and we kind of backed up. And then we had dance choreography that we would mess up on stage on purpose, kind of, to just make it look like we were bungling around up there. That this package wasn't as well produced as the other packages out there. So you could see how the package was put together and how it was crumbling, right?
Yeah.
We wanted to show that. And so, so that was the idea. And so then we knew someone at this Channel V, which is like the Asia MTV, that they put on these like summer concerts, and they're doing this series of 3 concerts, one in Hong Kong, one in Taiwan, and one in Shanghai. And so I said, can we get in their whole day festivals? I'm like, can you schedule us in, in this festival? And so she programmed us into these festivals. Like, okay, great. We have 3 concerts that we can film at. So let me write this story around these 3 concerts. So then I was like, okay, what's the typical band story? A band story is about like getting together, finding your success, and then eventually, it falls apart. Like some kind of monster, the Metallica that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
The Beatles, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
Everyone gets creative differences and it falls apart. Every single band dies that way, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's going to happen. So that was the story. So over these 3 concerts, the first concert was our first live performance. The middle concert is where things start falling apart, right? And then the last concert is actually we've broken up and we get back together, right?
Yeah.
And and it's our reunion concert, right?
Yeah.
But these concerts were real concerts, by the way. So the first concert was a good primer. It was 2,000 people in a little hall, right? Still scary as shit if you've never performed before, right? And live in front of a live audience, which is what happened. And then the second concert was 40,000 people in Taiwan, downtown Taipei, like streets closed off at the town, the city hall building. And so that was terrifying. But actually that was easier than the 2,000 people because there's so many people you don't see anything, right? So you just go on this giant stage and perform and get off it, right? But in the midst of all this stuff that we're doing, we're also doing these shenanigans that we want people to see, like reporters to write about. Like, so we would get arguments on stage, fake arguments on backstage about like, you just fucked up, blah, 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 like all this stuff, so that people would see it and talk about it and write about it, and then it would be in tabloids and all that kind of stuff. So we spun all that kind of stuff, and we used it to show how this whole entertainment, fame, and celebrity, and the superficialness of it works, right?
Yep.
To sort of pull the veil off of all of it. And I think everybody kind of understands it, but we wanted to show the whole process through our own boy band. So we weren't criticizing other people, we were criticizing ourselves. We were lampooning ourselves through this one piece.
And to add to that, Daniel got blacklisted, taken off posters, pissed everyone off.
So the aftermath. Okay, so to go into more, I spent 18 months doing this, right?
Yeah.
Only 12 people knew, a small group of people outside of our boy band knew that we were doing it for fake, right? And then the rest of the world thought we were doing it for real, right? So I had to deal with my friends going like, "Why are you singing now? You're not a very good singer, Yeah, I'm just trying to make more money, whatever." The second thing was that we never sold anything.
Right.
So our songs we gave away for free.
Okay.
The concerts were, part of these free concerts that we never got paid for them, any of that kind of stuff. Because of Milli Vanilli, I remember what happened with Milli Vanilli. There was a huge backlash and everyone got crazy. So we purposely created in a way that we wouldn't get any trouble, except when we revealed the movie and it was finally revealed it was all fake, some members of the media that we'd been, messing with the whole time were really upset that we did that and started to blacklist me. So I would go to events, outside of this movie, other movies, right after that movie premiered, the Heavenly Kings premiered, I was in this huge movie called The Protégé, where I was the lead of the movie. And in the press conference, I just happened to be standing at the end of the press line, so they cropped me out of the photo, and they didn't talk about that I was there. And I was the lead star of the movie, right? Stuff like that. And for a year, any event, media comes up to you to interview you, to ask questions. And so I go to an event, and they're like, "Does anyone want to interview Aunt Daniel?" And they would purposely go, "No," and walk away, right? And walk away. And I just be, okay, cool. Because I never liked doing those interviews anyway. It's all bullshit interviews anyway. So they're cool. But it was very contentious relationship for 2 years probably.
Until you won Best Director, Best New Director.
No, even then they still hated me. Yeah,
I
won
really?
Best New Director for that film.
Yeah.
They still didn't.
Did you have to do anything to get back in the good grace, or did this just slowly?
No. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't care.
Right.
And so I didn't let it bother me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wasn't trying to even get back into good graces, so it didn't matter. Because the fact of the matter is, like, the media can do all they want, but, like, I still had a huge fan base, and people were still going to see my movies and blah, blah, so.
Right. That goes back to sell authenticity, because it's like, and this is one of the things that I realized was, like, we all love pop music.
Right.
It's like, I
Sure.
mean, even,
Beyonce's amazing.
Yeah.
Madonna, amazing, you know?
Yeah, and Nirvana, like, Nirvana's so poppy, and the reason why they're that way is because they wanted to be a punk rock Beatles. You know what I mean?
Sure,
it's like, it's funny how much time I've spent in introspection and how much I meditate and all this other stuff, but, like, how weird it felt to, like, realize, like, how long I avoided this one thing, and it's like, I need to make a shirt. It's like, it just says, you're not supposed to get it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, see, that's the thing. Is like with youth, you're this angry, fucking rebellious person.
Yeah.
So you're like, fuck establishment, blah, blah, blah. But, like, it's kind of misguided because it's kind of like you're just doing it to be pumped,
You're
right?
mad. Yeah.
And then the smart kids are the ones that go, okay, I'm gonna work the system to my advantage, right?
Right.
Yeah, I understand that there's some level of manipulating me, but at the same time, I'm gonna get what I want back out of it. And that's life.
Yeah.
People are going to use you, you're going to use them. That's life.
Yeah.
There's never going to be a situation where people are not going to use you and you're not going to use other people. It's symbiotic. It can be symbiotic if you let it be symbiotic.
Yeah, try to reciprocate.
And not go, this is a parasitical relationship and they're going to just feed off me all the time and they're going to control me and then they're going to make me sing folk songs, blah, blah. No, it's like there can be a way to...
That's why Dave Chappelle left.
Right.
And then, he left and then he came back and now he's...
Now he's a god.
And
he's an absolute god. But he could do that because he was going to be a god anyway. He was going to be who he was anyway, no matter what, with that success. So it's a little bit different in his situation.
Yeah, he's an anomaly. He's genius.
Yeah.
And but he saw that. And who's the? There's another one where it's like you can. It's that symbiosis. Like, I was looking through an old hard drive and I found this thing even talking about. Like, I'm not a political person, but I remember, like, back before we went away to Ireland, I think Trump got elected, right? And I was
right
like,
when we were in Ireland.
it was, and it was one of those things where it was like, I don't know anything about anything other than him. I actually don't. At that time, I was like, don't focus on whether he's a womanizer or a racist. Don't focus on anything other than he is not qualified for the job for one reason. Yeah. He's an economic vampire. Everywhere he goes, he's self-serving, and then it takes from the community. Like Atlantic City, if you just look at Atlantic City as his business card, he went there, made a bunch of bad deals, left with a lot of money,
and ruined it, killed it.
Yeah, killed it. And that's what he does. That's his move.
Yeah, he's doing that to his country. Right?
Yeah, that'd be like me going, wow, you make these great movies, but all the movies that you do, it like, every time you leave the town is just underwater. You know what I mean? And it's like it's like, no, you're an asshole. Stop making movies. And it was one of those things, and it's like we all have to. It's a weird thing because, like, even in mine and your relationship, like, at first I was always really careful about just being like, everyone fucking wants something from this guy. And then when I met you, I wasn't aware of anything other than the fact that this guy seems pretty cool and he likes 90s hip hop and he wants to fucking keep kicking into his old age. So it's like, let's do this. And that's the way I was introduced to you. And then as time went on, I started realizing the parasitic demands on the commodity that is an actor. And to, you almost have to walk through life kind of, with your dukes up until you get the people around you to kind of
that's
that out.
But going back to what I was saying earlier about how I kind of consciously made the decision not to be so mainstream anymore. It's part of that. It's like I realize I'm a commodity, but I don't want to be push and pull too much, right?
Yeah.
So I still want some control back on my life. So I'm going to sacrifice, probably a lot of money, a lot of celebrity, blah blah blah. I mean, I could have kept going that way. But I didn't really, that wasn't giving me happiness, and it wasn't giving me what I wanted. Like, my family was giving me happiness, so I wanted to spend time with that, right? And so that's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna let go of that. And also, I just, again, like I said, I'm aware I'm a commodity. I allow certain things to happen, but I don't allow all that, right? So I didn't want to give into it fully, right? So then I came back to the family aspect of this and use this to ground myself and use this as a point to make all of my decisions from this point on. So then then it became, now my career is not about trying to become the superstar anymore. I had that happen for 10 years, over 15 years, or whatever. Now I just want to work on cool stuff.
Yeah.
You know, stuff that makes me happy when I work on it, and that I'm proud of it when I walk away from it. You know, and it can be mainstream, like into the Badlands, or it can be something really alternative. It could be whatever. But I just want to do cool stuff that I evolve and grow from working.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And filming is like really important that you choose that, because you could be on something for 4 or 5 months. If you don't like it, it's torture, right? It's like really torturous. But if you like it, like Badlands to me was an incredibly difficult project, but I grew so much from it. Like just learning how to be a leader, learning how to conduct myself in that stressful situation, and also like physically and mentally push to the limit, right? But still be able to function, you know?
Well, your level of multitasking in that was crazy.
Yeah. I didn't know I had it. I actually didn't know I had it in me.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know I had that in me. And I came out of it going, wow, I'm really happy that I was able to push myself to this really hard extreme and like get through it all. But like I said, what's getting back at it is that, you know, now it's really like those experiences are really great for me. Like I grow from it. So being on a movie for 3 or 4 months and you don't grow or don't learn anything and you just hate it, you hate everything about it. It's like, why do that?
Yeah.
You know, for a paycheck? No. Why do that? So no matter what, a small, big, lead role, small role, whatever, I just want to do it for the experience. You know, for who I'm going to be working with, and am I going to grow out of that experience? You know? Yeah. Anything I do now, actually, is that. It's not. It's just for the fun of it or whatever. I want to do it for growth purposes. Because I'm middle aged now. I got to admit that. Yeah. And so I only got half a life left at that now. Yeah. So I want to make it count. I want to make this second half count. You know? Yeah. I mean, there was a time where I was watching the way you were kind of handling a lot of the things. So we talk about that like. You know, humans can't multitask, but like since you're into film, you can. But like then when you're coming back and you're learning all this shit about cars, it's just like, now I'm learning. Like, right. You know, but it's like since you've been doing how long have you been in movies now? Like 20 years? Since 1987, so 22 years. Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. So that's long enough. You can multitask in that. You know, and there's a team and there's people that are actually kind of working to help you out, but not everybody can. It's like I just realized that that's one of my skill sets. Like like I was saying earlier, it's like I thrive in chaos. You know? And so at films, it's chaos. You know. Yeah. And so a lot of people, some actors do the opposite, only act and just shut everything out because all that stuff is like noise. Yeah. And then for me, it's like I'm not that kind of person. I can't shut everything out. So then it's like, okay, I'm gonna if this is all happening in front of me, I'm gonna learn what's going on. Yeah. So I want to see what the lighting guys are doing. I want to see how they work, their processes. I want to see the camera guys, what they're doing. So I'm learning all that stuff about directing, how to make a movie, blah, blah, blah. And then the production, like how it's organized, how they put things together, how they make a call sheet, how they do all this stuff. You know, all that stuff. So just absorbing that over 22 years. Yeah. Whereas I have some friends that don't give a shit about any of that stuff. And they're just supremely good actors, and that's all they do. And they just stay in that lane, and that's it. They just get their call sheet, and they show up at work, and they go home. Right? But I'm not. That's not my personality. I'm just like, if I see it in front of me, I want to know what it is, right? And so that's how I ended up organically rolling into becoming a producer. Working long hours. Yeah, hours is nothing to me. Like I get to work 20 hours. I don't care because if you're having fun and you're passionate about it, like working on a car, that happened many times. It's like cranking away and you don't even know because you're in the zone, right? And it's only when it's toilsome, shitty work that you don't like it, you know. Yeah, I get told I work too much, and it's like, no. It's different for us though because we're doing stuff that we like. We're lucky enough that our passion is our job. Yeah. Right. Whereas like a lot of your students, they're coming in here for their passion, but they got a job they got to do, and they fucking hate their job. Yeah. Right. So therefore, they don't understand why you work so much. Right. And that's because you're not. It's not really work when it's happening. It's in that way. It is work, but it's not that kind of work.
When I was in Ireland, I was a commuter for the first time, and then I realized what it takes to do something good for yourself and have a job. Right. That was hard. Right. I told you, like, if I would have been there for another 6 months, I'd be dating someone, going home, having a nice glass of wine, and I mean, I did, like, when I was there, I got a Netflix account. Right. Binge watch Frasier, totally worth it. And did you watch every single season of Frasier? Yeah. Oh my god! Yeah. How many seasons are there? I would just sit there and I would just stretch out and do my kicks with my leg weights on, and just
But how many seasons are there?
It's like 1 million.
Oh my God, there's tons, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like old school, like 22.
Yeah. So 22 episodes a season.
Yeah. It was legit. And man, I was just like, come on, Niles, you got to get with Daphne, and you got to do this. But yeah, it was an intense. It was an intense time, and but that's why I changed everything that I was doing. Right when I came back, I changed everything. Because I saw how hard it is to squeeze 2 days in a week, something good for yourself.
Right.
While still commuting.
Well, I think for you, like the teaching was at one point good for yourself. It was something and then it became this thing.
Yeah.
It evolved.
Right.
Where then you didn't have time to do the things you wanted to do for yourself anymore, right? Because then you were in it all the time and people were coming all the time and helping people and blah, blah, blah. And that's what you do and you love doing that.
Yeah.
But then, psychologically, you still need to go do the things you need to do,
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that. It's like going into the Badlands was almost like a vacation because like I was working 7 days a week for almost 10 years.
Right.
And a lot of people would be like, yeah, I work 7 days a week. And then I'd be like, no, seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I know you're working 7 days a week, but like I have nothing, 5 days off in 5 years. And I was just like, oh my God, like I don't exist anymore.
Right.
And this shelter in place thing has made me completely change everything.
Yeah, it's it's put you in a totally different bubble. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's good because it's evolving in a way where you are getting the freedom you subconsciously desire. Yeah. Leisure man.
Dude, Daniel Wu is my leisure sensei. He taught me you taught me how to be leisurely.
Well, that came from years of working really hard, and sometimes working on stuff I didn't like, and going, okay, I got to find pleasure outside of work because for a long time, acting and working on movies was very pleasurable, right? And then there's a point where you become a commodity, and you all of a sudden you realize it while you're in the middle of a project, like what am I doing on this project? Like I got into this, I jumped the gun on this, right?
Yeah.
And then you got to go, okay. Yes, there's the celebrity and blah, 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 but that's not what's making me happy, right?
Right.
I need to go find some things that make me happy, right?
Yeah.
So you got to develop those things that give you a little bit of joy here and there. It's like an hour a day. You got to go do it. Go find that thing. Go do it. And so part of me getting into cars, coming back here, was, again, trying to find joy while also being constructive as well. And not just sitting around on my ass watching Netflix, It's like, I want to do something, but I also want to learn something. And then I want to be proud of what I've done and be like, cool, and then I can drive it around,
Yeah, and make really cool cars that like Raven is not going to get when she turns 16.
She's not. You didn't care about that. I was hoping. There's one point where she was like wanting to help, and then now she doesn't care at all. Like she doesn't even want to go to the garage. She says no.
It's how could you? I don't get it. I don't get it because she likes her little Tesla car, right? Her little electric thing.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. I mean. I recently did a podcast with my friend Sun Kang, and there's 2 girls on the show that are mechanics, and because their dad was, all right, and they're cool. It was so cool. They're like 21, 22, and they just want to build cars, right? And so I was like, maybe if I hope Raven gets a little bit of that off of me. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I knew some girls that were like pageant girls, and then they ended up like building a hot rod for their dad, and like these like beauty Southern belles, but they were like really into like Harleys and hot rods.
Right.
And you're like, huh.
It's interesting being a girl dad. This is what it's called now, girl dad, because I got to find that balance of the girliness and then also what I wish.
Yeah.
Because I only have her. I don't have a boy. I mean, we're not going to have we're one and done, right?
Right.
So I have to find this balance of like having my desires of like what I want to pass off to my kid, right?
Yeah.
That's not just a manly bro thing, you know?
Right. But I mean, what is it? It's like, I mean, what are some of the things that you would want to pass down?
Well, definitely, I don't know if it's necessarily the martial arts per se, but maybe it's the philosophy of the martial arts.
The devotion.
The devotion, dedication, and getting into something and being able to have that encompass your whole life, though. You know what I mean? I think yoga does that also, can be, right? A bunch of other things can do that. So if she can find something that then dictates how she can be a person and guide her. Because I think the martial arts helped me a lot. And not just physically, but also emotionally and growing to become a mature individual and a kind human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that I think martial arts gave me more of that kind of stuff than the physicality. Although I did have that too, but I think giving me that inner strength was really, really important. So I hope that she gets that out of. I mean, she is doing martial arts right now, but I don't know how long it lasts. But I hope that she gets that aspect out of it. You know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's like this whole thing of all the, this Bruce Lee thing coming up and all the the racial stuff and all this. It's like she's grown up in like such an intense time. Like learning martial arts is. Yeah. Because it's making decisions under stress, like consciousness under stress. Yeah. And, I mean, I feel when this is over, like, all of this is going to blow up. Like jujitsu, but actually just martial arts, though. Because at first it was all about glory, MMA. Will that work in the octagon? But then what people are realizing in the octagon is, we're useless. That's useless right now. The virus takes you down. Your inability to, if you need that much stimulation, like so many people can't do a form because they have to punch a pad or they got to fight or they got to compete. Right. And it's like, you're beating yourself, dude. Your brain. Right. You're laying in bed with your own mind and you need stimulation. Right. Right. And like martial arts is balancing all of those forces.
And also, like going back to Bruce Lee, a lot of people. Bruce Lee said, get rid of forms. Yeah. But people don't remember that he learned forms.
He learned a lot of them.
To get to that point, right? Yeah. And so it's not to say, like, don't learn forms at all. Yeah. Like, I think the forms are important. I think forms actually are important. But I don't think it's important necessarily for fighting. I think it's important for the art.
Well, that's like me saying, like, I was a songwriter, and that'd be like me just saying, let's pick up a guitar and write songs. But it's like I studied classical music. Right. Like, so I learned forms. Right. Like, that's all a form is a song. Right. And
but you're in that form, you're learning dexterity, you're learning timing, you're learning so much stuff, right? And so there is importance. Like, that's the difference between someone picking up a guitar and going, like, I learned it on my own, versus someone who's like classically trained and they got crazy technique. Yeah, yeah. Right. So I think that's the biggest difference in terms of martial arts, like forms and no forms. I think forms are very important. Even I don't practice them as much anymore, but I did a lot. I mean, wushu, that's all we did with forms, right? Yeah. So, and then that allowed me to be able to do choreography very well, right? For Into the Badlands. I mean, that was crazy, right? The way we shot those fight scenes. Right? It's not like you see in The Matrix where they had 6 months to practice this one fight scene. They did it over and over and over again. So when they shot it, they knew exactly what they're doing. We didn't really know what we didn't really know what we were doing most of the time. And we'd be done with it. We're like, do we get it? Okay, whew, we got it. Okay, go, keep going. And that actually felt like martial arts to me because
it's tiring. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting, but you got to think quick. Yeah, you got to learn right there on the spot.
Yeah,
and but you're using your foundation of knowledge from everything you've learned into the martial arts and putting it in this one moment. And it's not real fighting, but it is challenging you in all the ways a real fight would. Right. But you don't have the repercussions of getting beat up by it, right? Yep. And it's challenging in all those kinds of ways, but you're safe and it looks cool on film.
And there's still a level of reaction because kind of technically you sort of know where it's going, but you forgot most of it.
Because we learned it so quickly. Yeah, you're not 100% sure. Which I think, I mean, this is my theory about why the Hong Kong style works so good, is because we're not 100% sure. So there is this element of danger in it. So when you're watching it, it looks dangerous because it is dangerous because I'm not 100% sure that I'm blocking the right thing right now. Right. So the sword, is it coming from there or is it coming from there? I'm going this way. I'm just going to make that commitment. Right. Yeah. So, and then it hits and then I go, boom, I go to the next thing and just go. Right. And so there's an element of danger. Whereas when I watch, like Spider-Man or anything Marvel, where it's done in the virtual world, and you watch it, and I watch it, I literally watch it like this, because I'm not invested in it, because nothing is dangerous about it, right? Because someone was in a green screen suit, recorded all that stuff, and then they animated over it, so there's no element of danger at all. So it's not a fight. So there's none of this going on, right?
So like, go with me here.
The best fight movies I ever watched, I'm like, whoa. That's it.
Yeah. All right, just go with me here. This is why Frasier's so good.
I actually want to get into this with you because I remember you talking about this and I never really understood why.
It was the between of where theater and TV is going. So they're still acting kind of on a live stage. Yes. So it's not so like you know, the camera, it's not so mic'd up. It's not
right.
just like, so it's not so rehearsed. There's still an element of theater there.
Yes.
Right.
And something can go wrong. You can't go over again. Right.
Yeah. And that's,
but they do.
Right. And that's cool. And that's why the Hong Kong stuff is, there's just a feeling.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when you're watching a band play live and you know the song by heart, but they go off into a weird place and you're like, what is happening?
Right.
And then they bring you right back,
right.
and you can just tell. And that's important. Like,
yes.
Cause there was a time in television, you know, Cheers is filmed in front of a live studio, you know, and they're doing it and they're acting it. Right. And that's why Saturday Night Live is still there. You know, they rehearse it, but then when they're on it, it's happening so fast. There's still those moments.
Yeah.
I will admit, I have been, when I stretch at night, I realize I have Amazon Prime. So I've been rocking Carol Burnett.
Oh, no way.
Holy shit, I love her so much.
Oh, she's so good. I watched all that stuff when I was little. We watched it every, Saturday night or Sunday night? I forgot what it was.
Her humbleness, watch it now and watch how, like, grateful and charming and, like, just...
She's genius. She was
beautiful.
Genius. So great.
Yeah.
And to be like a really smart, funny woman at that time. Yeah. Amazing. I don't think she gets as much credit as she has been. I mean,
well, she's the punk. She's like all the people that have now come up. Like, you can't talk to any of them without, you know.
It's
mentioning
like Carol Burnett. The OG.
Yeah. She is. But her heart, whenever she's like doing, I mean, she's like so. And the way she started the show is so loose. So loose. Like, hey, turn the lights up. Anyone got a question? You know, and then back, and then they're in, and then it's just like,
well, that's like the opposite. It's like you're so, you know it so well that you could just fly it off, like David Chappelle's comedy, actually. Right. I think none of his stuff now is prepared material anymore. He doesn't write anything down. He just like his off the cuff thoughts. Right. I mean, I think his most recent thing. Have you seen it on YouTube?
No.
The 846. No. It's basically about the George Floyd.
Okay.
It's called 846. Is the time that cop was.
I need
on
to
his
watch
neck,
that.
right? Yeah. So he stages it at his friend's farm in Ohio. He lives in Ohio, right?
Okay.
And it's in this wedding gazebo and blah blah. But anyway, you can tell it's not pre-rehearsed anyway. But he just has a moleskin in his hand. Yeah. And every once in a while he just looks at it and then he just goes, right. And that's like the ultimate art, right? Yeah. Any kind of art is like, you know it so well that it just kind of flows out of you. Yeah. And like martial arts is that way. Yeah. I think making art, paint is that way. And it's not this like, okay, pre-prepared lines and fill in the colors. I mean, some of it is that way, but like the gestural, that stuff is very exciting because it is just so off the cuff and it is raw, organic, and pure.
Yeah. Oh, all right. I gotta let you go.
All right.
I know you're Daniel Wu and you have a lot of things to do. And,
not really. I'm packing a house. That's about it.
Oh yeah. You're moving into your place, man. Thanks. I could go for days with you. Yeah. I hope this works out, and I hope we got some good bass tracks.
Yeah, we got some cops there
in the mix. We got some cops. Well, I mean, this parking lot's been crazy.
Busy
because all the crime. And, we had a shooting here.
So they shut it down at night?
So they locked those gates a couple times, but they didn't give me the combination. Right. So I took bolt cutters to the locks. I have both of the locks sitting right over there. Right. I cut the locks off because you're not locking me in my place.
Well, this is dangerous.
Yeah. Not only is it dangerous, you know, it's like, sure, they even mentioned putting guys up there with AR-15s. Right. But if there's a house right across, if they shoot, it's going through someone's window. And if they shoot back, it's going through my window. And I think our lives are way more important than a vape store. So, you know, it's like, please feel free to let your vape oils go away. Right. You know, I'm not missing anyone blowing cotton candy smelling smoke. You know, fine, steal it all. But, you know, there was a lot of crime here. And I think it's calming down. But I'm just wondering where all the goddamn fireworks are coming from.
Yeah, what is that? What is the deal with that? Why are so many people laying off fireworks? Is it because like we're not gonna have 4th of July?
Well, that's what I was saying.
Where are they coming from?
I was like, so is there like a weird unemployment like fireworks store that I don't know about?
Yeah,
you know,
but it's like almost every night I hear a lot, right? And it was before the protests, right?
No, once shelter in place or like once the protest started happening, I personally feel that they set them off because it can disguise like a gunshot or something. Like, you know, because there are...
I hear that they're gunshot sensors.
And they can triangulate where it comes from.
And they can figure it out, and the cops go to this area. Because, you know that Citizen app?
Yep.
I have the Citizen app, right? It says gunshots detected in this area, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who is already kind of a fearmonger, and they got the Citizen app.
It made them crazy, right?
Dude, they like can't sleep. I'm like, kill the app.
They're probably looking at it all the time.
They cannot turn it off. I'll get a text sometimes. There's been a shooting, you know, a mile away, and I'm like, it's
I only turn it on when I hear gunshots or I hear cops nearby, or something going on near me, right? Yeah. That I think is going on. Then I turn it on. I don't like scan it every night, all night. But I can imagine a certain personality would do that.
Yeah, there's a certain personality. It's like, and you know, it's like we have to be very careful with this kind of stuff. It's like, you know, if I was an alien that came down to this place, you know, I would just think that everyone is at the beach after a great race war, you know, because if I look at social media, it's like you're either on vacation or, you know, it's like there's only two things that are happening in the world, you know, so there's a homogeny around the algorithm, which is pretty intense. And then when I sit down and talk to people, I just noticed that there's so much wisdom coming from people. But the problem with the revelation porn and the quote porn that's going on through all social media is we just have to say the bullshit and we're not actually doing it. And and if our thoughts, words, and actions aren't in line, we're out of integrity.
Well, I heard on Joe Rogan's podcast, he talked about how someone he heard said this, which is that now we're consuming information in a fast food processed way. Which is bad for you, just like processed food is bad for you, right? Yeah. Because you're just getting little tidbits here and blah, blah, blah. And it's affecting you, you know, severely. Like I have to pull away from all the Trump news. Yeah. And I have to pull away from a little bit of this Black Lives Matter stuff because it's affecting me in a way that is making me like feel down, right? Yeah. Like going, there's no hope anymore, right? Yeah. And so like I have to pull away because it's not true. It's just that if you're only seeing negative stuff on TV, you're gonna feel negative, right? Right. So you got to like filter a lot of that out. I mean, this is the problem with media today, social media, all that stuff. Because what you're saying is like you're only getting that one kind of information, and the only negative information is what sells, right? What grabs eyeballs, what pulls headlines, right? And so that's what you're gravitated towards. But if you get too much of that, and in these little short bursts, and you're not really studying something, it's bad for your brain. It was really making me feel terrible, you know. I really had to pull away because it was just like, I was going, what's the future like for my daughter? What's the point of all this? Like, should I move out of this country? I started thinking stuff like that, you know. Yeah. And it's like I don't want to go there, you know. There was
I was going through the talk that I was doing, and I was riffing, and there was this one line where it says, no bar ever clears out because someone runs in and says two people are getting along in the parking lot, right? That never happens. But I'm like, but I do feel that bar would clear out if someone ran in and said, hey, there's 50 guys building a better bar in the parking lot.
Oh, right.
I feel like that's the new thing, because like the armchair critic and the troll and the person that just is sharing, you know, and is like angry and all these things, it's like that person, you'll render yourself like, it's kind of like your friend that just never stops complaining. Yeah. You know, it's like, then you're finally like, get away, right? Yeah. And then you stop listening, and it creates like, it's a boy who cried wolf kind of thing, right? Yes. And we're crying wolf all the time, as opposed to like, and that'll distract us from the real issues. Well,
and it's also making you do stuff like, I'm reading about all this stuff, and like, am I supposed to be posting BLM stuff? Am I? Like, then you feel guilty, and then like, wait a second, no, I'm not. I don't have to feel that way because it's a mob mentality, right? No. Right? Yeah. Find the truth, find the individuality, and then find your way to express that, right? Without being sucked up in this wave of social media pressure, you know.
Well, I tell the story. I've told you the story about when I had to accidentally in the 90s in Eastern Germany. Me and that guy from Indonesia got. I needed money, and I had to run sound, and it ended up being running sound for a Nazi rally. Mm-hmm. And a couple thousand Nazis were like chanting, "We want war." I set this huge sound system up, and I go to this farmhouse, and next thing I'm walking back, and this is when I was a dreadlock kid, and I look kind of Jewish, and this guy's from Indonesia, and we're walking. We come up behind all these people. There's a big Nazi flag, and they're just chanting, "We want war" in German. And I had to run sound for this because you don't just like look at 2,000-3,000 Nazis and be like, you know what?
Fuck off.
I'm out of here. You know, I quit. I'm not turning this on. So I did it. We did it. But at the end of it, like, they surrounded the van. They weren't going to let us load out. I thought I was going to have to, you know, die. And then the main guy, I helped out a lot, fixed a lot of their gear because I can fix things. And I changed strings on guitars and fixed drums. And then he told them to help us load out because, hey, we wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for these guys. Right. And then at the end of it, I was like, hey, out of all the musicians tonight, you were the best. And I was like, I go, what drummers are you listening to? Or like, who's your favorite drummer? Right. And he told me, and I go, haven't heard of the guy. Do you have any of his music? And he goes, yeah. And I go, can I hear it? And then he played me this shitty Nazi band. Right. And he's like, who are you? He goes, well, who's your favorite drummer? And I'm like, well, I don't have a favorite drummer, but I've been listening to this Maceo Parker Life on Planet Groove album, which is like James Brown's band. And I put it in, and he goes, well, let me hear it. And I put it in, and it changed his whole life. He'd never heard black music. Like, his dad was a Nazi. He grew up in Eastern Europe, in Eastern Germany. And now he's listening to black music. And 2 weeks later, I got his number, and because he was just like so joyful. Right. And he sends me this. It's like, I remember I had this picture of him like holding a James Brown album, like with this giant crazy look on his face. And now he was now volunteering in an all black youth center, and he was playing in a hip hop band.
See, that's how you can affect change. Is like getting someone that way instead of yelling at someone, going, "You're a fucking piece of shit, Nazi." You should change. You know you're not going to get anyone to change that way, right?
They'll double down.
Yeah, they'll double down, and you know, you get tribal, they get tribal. It just gets crazy. So so those are the ways that you change people, right? Like in that way, and it's especially helpful that it's a white guy talking to a white guy and going, "Hey, look, I don't know if a black guy could tell a Nazi that." You know?
Yeah, there are broken people. I had a guru that always be like, "Oh, that guy, just turn him up against the wall and shoot him in the back of the head and let him start over again," right? Because these gurus, they talk about reincarnation and karma. They're just like, let that guy, he's broken. Right. And there is every now and then that kid that just like sees a cinder block and needs to drop it onto a baby bird. Sure. Yeah. There's that kid. Sure. And that kid grows up to be Jeffrey Dahmer and all those things. But those people are so rare. Right. Like, those people are just as rare as a Michael Jackson or a LeBron James. Although I read some
weird statistic that like 3 or 4 out of 100 people are psychotic. Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty high percentage. That's
and we're afraid of corona.
Yeah, right. And then you definitely know people that are on that edge. Right?
Oh yeah.
You know, so those are those people, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I remember days like when I was, I say predators are only dangerous when they're hungry or trapped, and I remember losing everything when I came here, and having to sell my car and living in a $500 car, and I remember being so fucking hungry and feeling so trapped. And just sitting up on campus, watching students drunk going to the ATM machine. Right. And I remember there was a good 2 weeks of every step I took, I had to force myself to do good.
Right.
It was hard.
Yeah. Because especially when you see how easy it would be for you to go just like gank that kid, right? Yeah. But it's like, okay, the true power is not doing that, right?
Right. And not only that, but there's that moment too where, if I needed to, like, so if I were to tell you that right now, and I were to know that if I would have acted on that, like I hurt someone and I did this, and I know that now you're going to take that information and weaponize it. This is why a lot of prisoners won't talk to their shrinks. Right. In prison, because anything they say to open up like that, they still have to go back into the population. Yeah. And it's sort of like, and they're not in that state because it's not safe to open up. So if I'm not safe to tell you that, like, I wanted to beat up college kids for their money, and then you're like, really? And then now I'm called on that, 20 years later. Yeah. And now it's like, I can't heal.
Well, that's what's happening in the social media world too. Right. Also the opposite, the real super liberal leftist side calling people out for racism or this and that they tweeted about like years ago. Yeah. And especially for comedians, like that's a hard one because comedians are obviously often most times like joking about that kind of shit. Yeah. So that doesn't make them a racist. They're making fun of racism.
Well, there was someone that had mentioned if you support, like, Trump Tower, all these organizations, then you're supporting racism. Right. And I wanted to just tweet over, if you go to Bikram, you're supporting rape.
Right.
You know,
right,
like, sorry, like,
yeah.
stop with that. Like,
Yeah.
and there's this book called, I think it was called Enhanced Interrogation. And it was these transcripts and they were talking to like the people that sort of masterminded mass murders and 9/11 and all these like things. And they were like, yeah, we're just going to use, you Americans have this moral high ground and we're going to use it to turn you against each other.
Right.
Like,
right.
that's, you know, we're going to do that, right? And like ISIS and Al Qaeda, their whole job was like, for every $4 we spend on a jug of milk full of ball bearings and nails and, you know, throw it on the side of the road, you guys are going to spend 20 million on missiles.
Right.
And then we're going to use your moral high ground to make you think you're right. And then we're going to pit you against each other.
Right.
And now you're going to be divided.
Yeah.
You're going to be internally fighting.
Yeah.
And you're also going bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like, I honestly think World War III is actually happening right now.
Yeah.
We just, people don't recognize it because it's all war of ideologies.
Yep.
Right. And so someone's waged war on the U.S. and split us, right?
Yeah.
But it's also happening in Asia. It's splitting China, Hong Kong, blah, 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 all that craziness. Like, the world's in shambles right now, and everyone's living in the same country, and there's no actual shooting going on.
Yeah.
It's all in the cyber world, but it's equal amount of venomous hate that's happening, right?
Yeah.
That is the same as probably the Nazi era or any other time. The Japanese invading China, all that kind of anger and hate, but it's just in the digital world now, right?
Yeah, it's like choose love, not fear. And I have this meme that I made. It says, it's like, I've seen choose love, not fear for last 10 years. And then it's just like ... It's a lot of fear. It's a lot of fucking fear. You know, it's like, there's a Native
But they're
American.
Using that as the driving force,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, use that to scare the shit out of everybody and make them become more tribal and divisive and divide everybody and all that. So it's interesting because I'm sure whoever invented the internet was not thinking that far down the line that this would be happening, right?
Well, it's how many. Someone mentioned this to me a long time ago. We were talking about suicide and like soldiers, boom, killing themselves, cops killing themselves, and it was like, well, yes, there's a high rate of that, and it's also a lot of times it's a lot easier because I can imagine the times in my life that if there was a gun on my hip, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But instead, like, I mean, you know, and as a gun owner, like, but you know, it's like mine was locked up in a safe and I don't remember the combination. So like, in order for me to get my gun to kill myself, I would have to learn to crack a safe. And by the time I devoted that much time and energy, I'd be so stoked that I just cracked a safe.
Yeah,
I
you're not depressed anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
And therefore, our ability to spread misinformation and hate is just a click.
Yeah.
It's just send.
It's too easy.
Send. Yeah. And so therefore, this is what I mean. Like, how do we? Is there just a move to make?
That's why I've also made it. I almost went to a point where I'm like, I might give up social media. Period. Right? Because of all the stuff I was seeing.
Yeah.
It was just that, and also it's too, like you're saying, it's too easy to because I was reacting. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna post something angry too. Like you just do that, and they're like, oh hell no, okay. Don't do that, right? But now I've made a conscious decision to just only post positive things because there's too much negative shit out there. There's tons of it, right? There's so much of it that I don't need to repost negative stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to post like stuff that make people smile because that's what we need, right?
Yeah.
And people might go like, oh, don't you give a shit about Black Lives Matter or this or that and that? I do. Yes. But there's so many people doing it that I don't need to contribute to that anger, right? I want people to be happy, you know? And I think what we need in this world more is less hate and more love. It's so simple, right? So simple. But we've been conditioned now to hate more than to love. In fact, we dole out love like barely. Yeah. Maybe to our wife, maybe to our kids, maybe to our parents. Some people not even to their parents, right? Yeah. And then so it's such a small circle. Love is like this now, and hate is like this, right? Yeah. So that needs to switch around, and that would solve like a fucking shitload of problems already, right? If we could just shift our mentality and go, okay, how can I be good to people instead of going, how can I claim my ground and be different than these fucking people, you know?
Yeah, and start showing that, because when everyone's mad, it's like we're all trying to show that I'm mad too, but it's like it's not about you right now. Of course, people are mad, but it's like. In that moment of anger.
But there's that pressure to, if you don't do it, then that means you're not mad either. And so blah, 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 right? Especially for someone like me who's, you know, why aren't you doing something for this?
Looking at you.
No, I posted my couple of things and that's going to be it because because the anger's out there, the hate is out there, all that stuff's out there, the media is, we're inundated with it. So I don't need to contribute to that flaming pile, the Burning Man pile, right?
Yeah.
I want to water this flower right here. That's what I want to do. Right?
Well, and you were like, I needed, it's like, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, but you took 2 weeks or a week or whatever to be like, I want to do something that matters. I want to do something in a voice that you can communicate with, like, because I mean, that's important, right? It's kind of like, and that's also why I've never really chimed in, because like my way of communication was through acoustic guitar, and no one cares about that guy.
You could have wrote a folk song.
I could have written a folk song.
You could have written a really good folk
song. Put a Birkenstock on this foot and just like, and just watch everyone go, just scroll right through that.
Well, that's it. I don't know how many people actually read that article. I mean, some people have commented on it, but it's out there in the ether. I just needed to do it. I needed to get it out of my system, right? Yeah. And so to me, that was my contribution to the whole thing. And then now I want to move on and go, just like I just want positive things, because I think, if you're inundated with negative stuff, you're just going to think negatively, and that's what was happening to me.
Well, and we're building a habit right now.
Yeah,
because we've been in fear. This is like the 4th month, right?
Yeah.
And it takes about 30 to 60 days to build a habit.
Right.
And if you have been living in fear and focusing on the negative and focusing on like feeling trapped, you've reprogrammed your nervous system.
Right. And well, also one of the other weird things is like there's one site that's calling out any kind of anti-Asian racism. So it's like all these Karens that they're filming and stuff. It's cool they're doing that.
Right.
But when I watch it, it starts to make me go, all white people are like this. It's making me think that. And that's not true at all, right? But because you see it that way, you get conditioned to that. So that's the bad thing about it. And that's also why I want to pull away from it as well, like looking at it even. Yeah. Because of that. And so again, it's cat videos.
Yeah. It's
kittens and puppies. That's all I'm going to post from now on.
It's that whole and you have an adorable puppy
and babies. I understand Sergio now. That's what all the kittens are about. It's all about making people happy.
Daniel Wu, thanks.
All right.
That was more than what I bargained for.
It was all over the place, but I think
that's how it's supposed to be. Well, this is a thing, man. I get annoyed that people box you in. I don't think they know how the reason why you're effective at what you do is you have many, many, many passions and skills, and you're you got something to say. Thanks. That was Daniel Wu.